I think we made it. I think we're live. Holy, that was a chore getting on here. I didn't think I was going to make it. That took way longer than it was supposed to. But now I've got an upcoming stream notification. No, I'm live. I'm here. All right. I just got to wait for some people to show up. It's election night. Woo! Who's ready? Who's ready to nerd out looking at some numbers? Am I actually live? Is anybody here? There we go. Yeah, can you guys hear me okay? You can hear me okay? I'm just going to have a sip. Cheers to everybody. Get my hair out of here. Nobody wants that. Saskatchewan here. Just watch you and Sean stream. Yeah, that's actually the first time I've met Sean, so hopefully we can get to know each other a little bit better. And yes, I'm not into the liquor yet. I don't know if I will. I'm drinking light beer. I'm very much in my Carlsberg year, but I have some good old Kentucky bourbon, which is banned in Canada. I've had this bottle for a very long time, and this is my little bit of Woodford Reserve. I bought this bottle, I can't even count how many years ago. We might finish that off tonight just so I can get it out of the cupboard, but I'm not into it yet. So you guys ready? You ready to see a map? It's someone else's map, but it's a map all the same. Let's see here. So far, I got to say, I'm liking the conservative numbers out east. I didn't expect much more than this. I was afraid there would be less than this. I think going west, they'll get stronger. They're only going to get stronger throughout the night. And all that is to say, I know that there are all of the inherent problems with the Federation and equalization and more problems than I can count, and the Conservative Party doesn't go far enough on certain things. But my God, I can't do this rewarding the Liberals with more government. I can't do this rewarding Mark Carney. That book, which I don't know how many of you poor people have sat through those reviews. I spent so many hours reading that book and putting together those videos. I have no idea if it was worth any of the time I put into it. But it certainly cemented in my mind just how, I hesitate to use the word evil, but it's pretty damn evil. The guy has no center. The values that he's espousing, he writes a book about values, but his values oscillate all over the place, and he kind of cherry picks them depending on what chapter he's writing. He has no center. The center that he has is in the actions. And the actions are a man who has been raping and pillaging the poor his entire life to feed it to his friends in finance, controlling central banks, printing money, dumping it on your heads, robbing. It's not even taxation. Robbing the value out of your pocket, of your hard-earned money by printing money for free and handing it to the banks and seeing that as his sacred duty. I can't reward that. I can't wish for that. I can't hope for that. Even though, I understand some of the arguments from Western Canada about if Mark Carney gets in, it hastens the separation of Western Canada, and we can get on with that task. And I see the point, but I just can't get there. I can't go that far. So I am invested in a Conservative Party outcome, and I mean they're the party in a position to take Carney out, and they're untested. Somebody said the other day, we were talking about Aaron O'Toole, his leadership, and how if things had gone different in 21, none of this would have happened. We wouldn't have Mark Carney. We wouldn't have had to deal with the last 4 years of Trudeau. And I said, though, we would have had Aaron O'Toole. The Conservative Party would have been rewarded for that abysmally weak, milquetoast, terrible leadership, and they would have thought they were geniuses for promoting it. So I think things worked out pretty good the way that they are. And, if it's not going to be Poilievre, if he's not going to be the Conservative Party Prime Minister, who the hell else they got? What do? Do they fire him if he loses this election? Who do they go to? Who do you name? Scheer's already been leader, so he's out. Where do they go? This is it. This is the final form. This is the CPC that can appeal to the most people and potentially win an election. And I may not like them on Ukraine. I certainly don't like them vis-a-vis Trump. Although I will say in the Conservative Party defense tonight, that Trump doesn't make it easy. He paints a big old target on his head. And this country, there's enough Trump derangement syndrome in this country that if you're a politician and you're playing the game, you have to bow your head to it at least somewhat. There's certain demographic and physical realities that if you're going to play politics at all, you have to respect the new rules and the new country in order to win. Otherwise, you're an advocate. And I got no problem with that. But you shouldn't be in politics if you don't plan on winning. Let's see what the chat's doing. Because this is that when we did the debate review, the debate coverage there. Can you guys see that map? What the hell's going on with my mouse? What is going on? There we go. When we did that debate coverage, I didn't like it because I couldn't talk to you guys. What's the point of having a live stream if I can't talk to the audience? I was too busy reacting to everything. Sounds good. Right on, Frank. Glad you're online tonight. I'm here because so many of you wanted me to be here. I didn't want to go into competition with the National Telegraph or what Clyde's doing over there and all those people, not just Clyde, Sean Newman, the whole gamut of people are doing some really good work over there. But my audience keeps me doing what I'm doing. So I'm here for you guys. And I want to be here too. It's not just I don't want it to sound like I'm just here because you want me here. I'm here because I want to be with you too. I usually do these election nights alone. Quiet, by myself. I'll have a few drinks. I'll watch the results come in and I'll think about it. This is the first time. I don't even usually do videos until the next day. I don't do live reacts or nothing. So this is all new. You did a great job, that book on values. It was a dry read. Thank you for that job. I don't know if you should thank me. I don't know. That's a weird one because I felt it was so important to do, but then I wonder if, like, maybe in retrospect it'll be important, or if, God forbid, Mark Carney wins, maybe it'll be important in that way so that we can look at it and know that he told us what he would do ahead of time, very upfront. This is the Denim Don in disguise. Denim Don, yeah, you sent me an email, didn't you? I remember you. Good to have you doing your own thing. Yeah, I'm glad to be here. Map is not looking quite as bleak as I thought so far. Yeah, the East is coming in. Is that government propaganda? Is that you, Fort? Sorry, I just doxed you. Brother, if that's you, good to see you. Critical's here. Brother Leo. The Maritimes are looking beautiful. Yeah, I mean, I was looking for 8 or 9 seats maybe. Can you, what is this looking like? Do I got that? Yeah, I do have that on screen. So the margins are starting to open up now. You guys can see that. Just give me a minute to orient myself because I've never done this before. So, but like they solidly nuked central Newfoundland. Like they got it, and they're not as efficient as the Liberals, which is why the Liberals are so far ahead. But the popular vote, it's getting a bit soft now. Like that's like 8 points. I don't like that so much. But if they come out of this with 9 or 10, I can only imagine, like I said before, that it gets more conservative as we go east. Is there anything in from the Bows yet? Let's check in with Maxime Bernier. Nothing yet. Where are we at? So when does Quebec closes? So we got 40 minutes to spend together before we actually get some real results here. Because most of the country closes at 7:30 my time. So looking at Elections Canada's numbers, 141,000 votes for the Conservatives. Communists are in at 28. Liberals at 167,000. The People's Party's coming in at 0.8%. Now, my prediction for the PPC is 1.7. We'll see how that pans out. My stream is buffering. Come on, Elon. I got work to do here, man. Give me I need a dedicated Starlink satellite today, right now. Maybe I'm streaming in too high quality. Can I reduce that? I don't want to reduce it because then you won't be able to see the screen too good. Let me know how things are going in the comments if it's buffering too much for everybody. Is it working? Like, let's see a poll here. Is it working? Stream's fine. You know what, Dominic? I don't know if the PPC are splitting the vote because the PPC people, the crowd that's left there now, will never vote for anything else anyway. They're dialed in. They're locked in. Max is their savior. I think if the PPC doesn't exist, maybe they vote Libertarian. Maybe they just stay home. Like I I didn't even like the vote splitting argument when I was running for them because, I was out there meeting people. I was knocking on doors and I was running into Liberals. I was running into former NDP. It was half Conservative, but the other half was a mix of all the other disaffected in 2019. So it wasn't a very good argument, which is why you'd be hard-pressed to see me making it at the time, and I won't make it from this side either. But you're more than welcome to your opinion. Poll said Atlantic Canada would go Liberal with Conservative with only 4. Yep. Now, the polls. Now, that's an interesting one because in the wake of this, we're going to have to hold the polling houses accountable. Now, I think what they're going to say is that they weren't polling enough young, or they weren't they didn't sample the young, they oversampled the old. We can see that in some of the crosstabs that we get. But I think more fundamentally, and this is giving some credit to them because you got Frank Graves over there at ICOS. He came right out and he said, in order to stop Poilievre, we have to be willing to do anything, and I will put my finger on the scale to make sure it gets done. So that explains ICOS right out the gate. But I think some of these polling houses, young people aren't picking up the phone. They don't have landlines. I don't think they've updated I don't think they know how to poll. Their methodology is out of date. And as I was just saying on the Sean Newman, Clyde, do something, what do you even call that megacast thing that we just did? The rise of podcasting and alternative media and getting your information not from the mainstream media, Canada's behind. The uptake is there. It's going to become penultimate, and then it will become the ultimate form of communication and information. But we're behind the curve. We're not there yet. And the polling companies, I think they reflect that somewhat. I'm trying to give them a little bit of the benefit of the doubt. I don't think they know how to poll anymore. We're going to find out tonight. We're going to find out because I don't want to get too far ahead of ourselves. But they certainly didn't peg the CPC with 10 in Atlantic Canada and sitting just 9 points behind the Liberals. So we'll see. We'll see what happens. Let's go back to the chat. 40 minutes to burn. We could polish off that bourbon by then. You really want me to get into the bourbon, eh? Let me see in the chat. Should I get into the bourbon? Should I do the Woodford Reserve? Start getting rid of that? Right now it's fine. All streams are... Well, yeah, everybody's streaming too. Like everybody. Rebel streaming, National Telegraph, Juno. Everybody's out there streaming right now. It's one of the reasons why I don't normally do this is there's always, 100 people streaming. PPC isn't relevant. They won't be the spoiler. Yeah, man, if they stay below sub 1%, now they're going to pick up some as we move west. So we'll see how they do. But, yeah, I mean, Honda says, you're correct, Frank. PPC are locked for life. Yeah, they're in. And the thing is when Max finally retires and he leaves them all high and dry and he leaves the party broke, and there's not even a party. There's not even a succession plan. There's no structure. There's no meetings. There's never been a founding convention. It's his personal project. And when the day comes that he decides to retire, they're not going to know what to do because there's never been a plan for what to do post him. I feel sorry for them because they're desperate. They want something different, and they may not know how to communicate. If you judge the PPC by what you see on X, you just see a ravenous horde of people throwing insults around and explain. Today I seen a guy say millions of people are full-on cowards who won't vote their values. If they were actually brave, they would vote PPC, and it's like, nah, man. You can't win them over that way. You can't call people retarded and then expect them to vote with you. The bullying doesn't work in politics. Not in Canada, anyway. Not in Canada, not that way, and not in an election like this. Thank you, sir, for doing this. All the others are just a little too much to take. God bless. I don't know. I think everybody does their own thing. Troy Easter, morons inches. Not sure what you're saying there, but I'm with the sentiment. Make some old fashions. I'm tacked out of Bouliet. I don't know what that is. Thank you, Frank, for red-pilling me about Max Bernier. Look, dude, I tell you what I know. I tell you the information, and you make your decision. That's what this is. I told you through this election cycle how I was going to vote, and there were times where I doubted how I was going to vote. Man, there was one video I did, and it was fixated on Ukraine, and I was just like, I don't even know if I can vote for these guys. Like, it's just they're literally campaigning on a war that's going to end the planet. Like, how can I, like, it sucks. And then they came out with the Team Canada, and they were all standing together, and at first I was really peeved about that. I still don't like it. I think there was just this diplomatic road that they could have took. They could have said, look at what the Liberals have done to the country. Look at what our standing is with our most valued partner and ally in this world. Our best trading partner, the literal best geopolitical relationship that God ever created. Look at what they've done to us. They insulted this administration before it was an administration. They spent 4 years browbeating Trump and celebrating the fact that he was being harassed legally. And now he's president, and they've left us in a crippled position. And the Americans can do a lot of damage to us now, and we got to fix it. We got to repair that relationship. I don't know why they didn't take that. Well, actually, I do. Because they do the litmus. They realize that there's a whole bunch of brainwashed people in this country. They've been heavily propagandized their entire lives. I'm not lacking in pity for the people who have been so propagandized. They're broken. They were broken before COVID. They were broken before 2021. They're hypnotized. I know beautiful people. I should say I knew because they're deceased now. Beautiful people. Elderly people in their 80s. And they had lived through the Second World War. And they fled Europe, came to Canada, couldn't speak language, were indentured on farms, built a life, and had half a dozen kids who went on to have dozens of grandchildren. And it's a beautiful story. And they're beautiful people, and they're strong people with full of character. And they voted Liberal because all they got was their information from the TV. They're at the end sitting in the seniors' home watching CBC. And I feel sorry about that. I shouldn't say I feel sorry about that. I have some pity for that. I have some pity for the people who are still wearing masks to this day because their minds are broken. They're broken people. The country's full of millions of these broken people. So maybe I'm getting soft in my old age. But back to the point, the CPC at least understands that. And maybe when you're in politics and you're actually in it to win it, you have to be even more allowing for that sad reality. Let's go back to the chat here for a minute. It's just, I'm losing it. Nice shirt, Frank, dressed for the best. How about this? In my video today, I put my hair back, mainly because I didn't wash it, and I just wanted to throw a quick video together because I knew we were going to do this tonight. And I put it back, and some people liked it, and some people didn't like it. What do you think? Should I have the hair back? Should I actually tame this thing, get more professional, or should I stick with the whole wild man thing that's going on here? It's not really the wild man thing. This is just how I am. I put it up when it gets hot, and I leave it down. I like it down. Where are we? Thanks for doing the stream, Frank. You got it, Morgan. Hi, Frank and friends. Wendy Howard. Good to see you, Wendy. Tracker Lorna with the blue hearts. I've been friend-zoned, or she's into the Conservative Party. We'll go with the Conservative Party. Canada is cooked either way. We have some significant problems and some significant headwinds that are not going to be easily addressed. And now here's the interesting thing. I've talked on the channel about, and I've talked to you guys about how they're going to, the Conservative Party, if they come in and they want to, and they're genuine and they want to do what they say they're going to do, and they actually, maybe even they go further, because they see things from the inside once they get in, and they're like, well, we gotta ramp it up. We gotta cut immigration more. We gotta rapidly cut the deficit more. And like they do that whole switch, but they switch towards the right. If they do that, they face the Senate, they face the judiciary, they face the radicals, and they face all these headwinds. But the Liberals and the NDP have pioneered government by order in council. They have expanded that power far beyond what it used to be, to the extent of banning private property and using the Governor General to fund $40 billion in spending in the middle of an election cycle when you neither have a government nor parliament. And that's an important point I'll remake right now. The government is not parliament. You elect parliament, they appoint the government, and it should be unequivocally proven to every single person watching this now that when you can prorogue Parliament and you can send it home and you can still govern You can still spend. You can still ban. If you can do all those things, then your parliamentarians are not your government. But that being said, the Conservative Party inherits that precedent. Now, if they try and use it, I'm sure the media is going to call them out as tyrants. But I think we're close to the end zone. It's do or die time. And if Poilievre is dynamic and he's a leader and he's all these things that he wants to be, he's probably going to have to use every tool in his arsenal to get anything done. Because Honda says, yes, thank you for informing us about Max. You would be surprised talking to Critical. If the stream stutters and you get swamped, we are hooped. I've been so insulted by PPC supporters. Yeah, they're very vulgar. And I mean, every party has them, but the PPC has a lot of them. They just name call, they bully, they're really bad in terms of a strategy for how to win people, win hearts and minds, and actually build value. Let's go back. Actually, let's see how they're doing. Right now, Liberals are up by 10 points, but it's the East, so that's not surprising to me at all. And there's the PPC. They got 0.9. They're creeping up. 3,900 votes. They're creeping up there. What do we got? Yeah, I mean, anything over 8, I think, is a strong open for the CPC out East. You know, I almost moved to this riding right here, Beausejour. Let me just pull this up for a sec. Dominic LeBlanc's riding. I didn't even know that. Actually, okay, so there's an interesting one, because when I was there, so I looked at a house there years ago, and I pulled up how they voted in previous elections, and it was like Liberals, NDP, Greens, followed by the Conservatives were like 5 or 6%. You'd have to fact check me on that, but it was really low. And while I was there, you could just smell the liberalism and the leftism, and there was a number of reasons, but that was one of the deciding factors. I'm like, nope, I can't go East. And I knew my heart's always been in the West, even though I was born in Ontario. And getting here and feeling the culture and experiencing it, I'm like, yep, this is the Ontario I grew up in. That unfortunately I think is long gone. And maybe if I didn't have young kids, it wouldn't be such a big deal. But I wanted to raise them somewhere where they had a chance at a peaceful existence. Troy Easter says, you're the best, Frank. I enjoy my evening to sit in my chair and listen to your new content. I really respect that, man. Because I know who you are, and I know what you guys do for a living, and it means a lot to me that you would choose to spend your off time. And that's one of the reasons I'm here too, but it permeates the mission that I'm on with this channel, and that's to not waste your time. I don't want to waste people's time. And when I got a weak video and I put it out, like I put the second last one I put out, which was "This is not a normal election," I didn't feel good about that video at all. And you know that stupid thing? It's got like 10,000 views now or something ridiculous. So sometimes I guess I don't even know what's going to be watchable to people. Kitty says, keep your hair as is today. Back felt like it wasn't you. Okay. All right. It's still me, though. Like, what if I went bald? Would you still love me? Or is it just my hair? You're just using me for my hair? All of the runners want to continue in Ukraine. All of the others want to continue in Israel. Those are two very different things. My concern is keeping us out of it. That's what I'd like. I'd like to keep us out of it. Stay safe and stay home. Well, I'm doing that tonight. Trudeau caretaker, no buffering on my end. Build a wall around Ontario and keep the psychopaths in. There's good people in Ontario, millions of them. As hard as I am on Ontario as it's evolved politically, my mind is always to the really good souls that I met while I was there who are still back there. I know that they didn't vote for any of this, and they don't want any of the things that have happened, and they're stuck living with it. Some of them are stuck there, genuinely stuck there, and then other people, you know, they're just, for whatever reason, they're not ready to pull the plug yet. They don't want to get out. Family ties, like, I'll tell you there's a cost to be paid, by uprooting and moving. Some people don't pay as high a cost, and then other people pay a really high cost. So it's you have to be willing to pay that price, and you have to be willing to part ways with your past, and that's not easy for people. And I just think about my wife's grandmother when they left the Netherlands and left their family behind. They never thought they'd see each other again. And in some ways that was true. But they crossed an ocean and went to a different country without even speaking the language. So if they can do that, all I did was move a couple thousand kilometers within the same country to a better spot in the country, in my opinion. Saskatchewan is really underrated, extremely underrated. Build a wall around the GTA. I'm in Ontario. I wish I could afford to get out. Well, it depends on what you got. It depends on your circumstances. But rent is so cheap out here. I mean, you can get a 2-bedroom apartment in near work in a small town for $850 a month. You can buy a house for $50,000, $75,000. It's a fixer-upper, but it's a house. It's 4 walls. It'll keep you dry and it's warm. You can get a nice house for $150,000, $200,000. You can get a palace for $300,000. I don't even know what you'd spend $400,000 on. Like, it's a very different real estate market. Once Yan wins Barnaby Central, have you thought about running for NDP leader? Seriously? Something. Yeah, I have. I've thought about it. But what are we going to do? We're going to take over the federal NDP and completely change it from the Socialist Party that it is? How do I say this diplomatically? There's a lot of extremely dedicated socialist NDPers who actually think that the NDP is okay. It's just veered off in the wrong direction under Jagmeet Singh. I don't think they're going anywhere. I think they're going to try and pull it out. What am I going to do? Come in there with a populist message and take over? I think you could. Look at what Singh did. 20,000 memberships, and he took over a federal party, made all kinds of money, got his pension for life, and then ran it into the ground. It's totally possible that a weakened NDP can be taken over, but what would be the point? What's the objective? Do you think we're actually going to win an election with the NDP orange? It's kind of like the PPC. People talk about, in a post-Maxime Bernier PPC, can it be brought back? Can it be activated? Can it be made into something? I don't know if it can be. I think you got to rebrand. You have to start over from scratch. It's polluted. The brand has history. Same with the NDP. There's a lot of history there, and a lot of the recent history ain't good. BC Professional Association Act. Yeah, I haven't had time to talk about that. Has 3 lawyers, 14 unelected officials, and some guy from Britain running things. Nobody wants to be a lawyer or doctor in BC. What got? That is a dangerous. BC is its own thing. It deserves its own video series. And whatever happened to those checks that Ebby was promising everybody to get elected? I don't think anybody's got their check yet. I'm hoping to pass out before results. A lot riding on this. Stay or leave Canada. That reminds me. It was Y2K, New Year's Eve. I was partying pretty hard. And I made the decision that I was going to party harder than I should so that I would be passed out stone cold by midnight. And I slept through the whole thing. I was in bed by 9:30. I woke up at 6 the next morning, and I'm like, I'm still here? The lights still turn on? Perfect. Let's keep living. But I'm not feeling that tonight. So you're going to have to do that alone, double duty. Critical. Frank, I paid a big price moving to the U.S. I never looked back, and it was worth it. Good. That's another thing. The Americans, they love us. They love Canadians. They have no idea what's gone wrong with us and why we're so obscenely crazy up here. Well, that's a whole other story, too. But, I've never talked to an American who's just, who is as virulently hating towards Canadians as we are towards them. And I say we, it's the royal we. It's not actually the people in this chat. It's certainly not me. But there's a lot of people foaming at the mouth in this country about the United States right now, and they look at it and they don't understand how that could be the situation. Not much is moving here. Liberals still 10 points ahead. Yeah, the only surprise here is that I think the Conservatives are a little stronger in the East than I expected. But yeah, we're 15 minutes out from the big closing. Maybe getting an idea of what's going to happen. Oh, either way, I know what I'm doing. If Carney wins, it's pretty clear what has to happen. If Poilievre wins, it's pretty clear too. It's just a little. I'd love to talk about it, but I think you guys can infer. But the ideas are still percolating in my mind, so I don't want to get into it. But there's two distinct approaches that lead towards the same goal, depending on what happens tonight. So we're all going to see Vancouver. Wait a minute, hold on. Damn chat. Vancouver Island will be a blue wave. Yes, Christine Boozy feeling very optimistic apparently there. Conservatives need Ontario prairies. We have never mattered in our votes. We do matter. Okay. So the vast majority of the population rests in Eastern Canada, and that's a fact. But the presence of the blue wall in the West creates the hinge that swings the country. It doesn't create the hinge. So I call the show the fulcrum. Okay, the fulcrum implies that there's a seesaw. That's basically the image is a seesaw, and the fulcrum's the balance point, right? And the West weights one side, and Atlantic Canada weights the other side. And the battle's fought in the middle. Quebec doesn't really matter because they're just sovereignists. They vote BQ and they bounce back and forth, but they're doing their own thing, and they've been doing their own thing since this country was founded, I guess you could say. I think it counts. I just think that if Ontario goes red, it sucks because counting the rest of the vote doesn't make that difference because there's just less people here, And that's the shame of the way that the system's set up. You need a Triple E Senate. And just the most important part of that is balanced. Quebec gets 2 seats or 3 seats or 4 seats, and Alberta and Saskatchewan each get 3 or 4 seats, a matching amount of seats for every single province. So the land gets a say. So the people that live on that land get a say. I have no problem with the House of Commons being organized the way that it is. I don't think we should ever change first past the post. I don't think that's the problem. There's a lot of people who want to go to I'm drawing a gap right now, but whatever the hell it is, where you have a list. What's it called? Chad will know. Popular. Doesn't matter. I don't think we need to change first past the post. The House functions perfectly. The issue is the rest of it. We don't elect our Governor General. Think about that. That's the easiest one to solve. You could just create a binding plebiscite, so an election, where you have people who run for the Governor General's office and you elect them. So you elect this, it would function like a president. It'd be pretty cool. And we can do that pretty easy. And the Senate should be elected, but it should be elected on equal lines. It shouldn't be weighted to population. It should be weighted to land. And if you fix those two things, and I'd like to add the right of recall and a bunch of other cool stuff and ballot initiatives that are binding, and there's other things that I'd like, but those two things, the House is fine. It's just everything around it sucks. And because everything around it sucks, the House sucks because it's all we get. So the system's inherently unfair, especially towards Western Canadians, but I blame the Senate more than I blame anything else for that. You could be a better leader for the NDP. I'm sure I could be a better leader for the NDP. I'm not full of myself, but I think I could do a better job than Jag, for sure. I just don't think the NDP are going to have me. Can we not give you super chats, Frank? No, you have to go to my website. You got to do it through PayPal or e-transfer. I'm not monetized. Everybody's at me to get monetized and become a YouTube partner. My audience is at me. Other streamers are at me. They're saying, the channel should be much bigger, and I'm not getting the reach because I'm not monetized and I don't have ads. And, The other thing about super chats is Google takes a third of it. 30% of your money that you want to send to me goes to them. And it's not about me wanting the money. It's about you paying Google. Like, it's... I don't know. I can feel that someday I'm going to break on it, and I'm going to have to do it just for the reach, maybe. But every time I think about doing it, like I was in there one day clicking all the buttons, and I just backed out of it. So yeah, there's no monetization, there's no ads, and I read through all your chats the same way as I would. And I don't judge anybody for doing it. I'm not trying to judge Clyde or anybody else for being monetized or Wyatt or anybody. Like I'm not trying to sit here and say that I'm better. It's just I don't know. It doesn't sit right with me. PPC raids NDP. Yeah, it'd be fun. What are you drinking, Frank? I am drinking Great Western Light. Really good beer company. Their original's really good, but I kind of wanted to go easy tonight, but I'm sitting beside 2 bottles of whiskey, so, we'll see how things go. Okay, that bourbon is making me thirsty. You know what? We'll go with Woodford first. Pour a bit of a shot. Once it's in the glass, we'll just let it sit there. And we'll see what happens. We got to get through that bottle tonight at least. Critical says, I'm going to pour me a glass of Buffalo Trace. I have no clue what that is, but it sounds interesting. Sounds like a headache in a bottle, like all booze is. I've lived in Sask all my life. It's nice to hear an adoptee's perspective on being here. Brenda, I came here hoping to keep it the way that it is. I left everything at the door. And whenever I tell anybody about the miracle that I think Saskatchewan is, that's what I tell them. Leave your baggage at the door, and I mean all of it. I remember I seen on a Facebook group, a person was here, and they said they had moved from Ontario, they had relocated here, and they said, there's a farmer spray in their field next to me. Who do I call to get him to stop? Do I complain to council? And I'm like, nope, you don't do any of that. You talk to the guy if it's a problem and you're worried about overspray. Otherwise, you mind your own business. Like, the way things work here is very different from Ontario. If you have a dispute with your neighbor in Ontario, you're going to be fighting with the guy for the next 10 years. Everybody's going to dig their heels, and it's going to be this great big battle. But I know of specific examples of people with just their humble home going and talking to somebody who owns thousands of acres of land because the guy was shooting his gun off up the top of a hill, and it was scaring her dogs. And these are 2 local people, and she just went over and she said, you're scaring my dogs with the skeet. And he's like, okay, I'll move it. And that was it. Everybody just kind of gets along, right? So I didn't come here to change anything, but I did bring something with me, and that is a message from Ontario. Saskatchewan's a beautiful place. The people here are nice. It almost brings a tear to my eye how nice people are. You go into a grocery store with the kids, everybody's talking to you. Everybody's happy to hear the joy of children laughing. And there's kids everywhere. The demographic, there's so many baby bumps running around. Like this place is beautiful. However, that niceness, that politeness, that's the weakness. And I don't want it to change, but you need strong, and this is where, people who are libertarian are going to say I'm a statist, but you need strong representative government to protect that culture. Because we had it in Ontario, and we lost it. And that's pretty much the only thing I bring. I bring a warning from the East as to how things can go. Fire at polling station in Windsor. That's probably not good. Hello from Colorado. Welcome, Caleb, if you're still here. Jagmeet is better known as Pansy Brown Nosy. Well, I called him today Outrage Rubber Stamp. Jagmeet Outrage Rubber Stamp Singh, because he's always online signaling how outraged he is with the Liberals, and then he just turns around and votes with them anyway. Fire at polling station in Windsor. I don't know. they'll have to deal with that. I can't do anything about it. Watching from Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania with a couple beers, hoping Canada isn't fucked enough to vote for Carney. Pardon my French to all the people in the chat who don't like swearing. I was reading. I wasn't swearing. I think I'm going to have a little sip. The thing about whiskey, bourbons, anything, they all, when you put them in your mouth, taste like crap. It burns. It's like real life. It's horrible. But then after you're done and you swallow it, that's where the real flavor is. And some of them are just magic. So you got to go through the burn to get to the flavor. That's what I think I like about heavy metal and bourbon, is that they sound and taste like real life. There's beauty in it, but there's also some pain that you have to go through to get to it. So far, the CPC is doing better in East Coast than Polywave Sitemap says. Yeah, well, everybody's... I don't want to get ahead of it, but I think everybody's underestimated the Conservative Party, and I think polling has too, but again, it's early. The Liberals are at 52% of the popular vote. CPC is at 40%. It's just the East Coast, so we'll see how it comes in. But it's very difficult for me to understand how a country could possibly consider rewarding the Liberals and Mark Carney. I'll believe it when I see it. Where in Saskatchewan are you? In the north. In the bush. Good evening, Frank. Have you ever had the whatever that is, Bruchlatic octomorph? No, I don't even know what that is. Oh, man, the chat's just jumping around all over the place. Elections Canada keeps going down for some unknown reason. Traffic, everybody's hitting refresh at the same time. Honestly, I'm not trying to be dismissive. I just don't think it's that big a mystery. If Carney does win, what do you think the odds of Alberta and Saskatchewan leaving are? I don't know what the odds are, but I know that's what I'll be aiming for. I don't know what else is there to do. What else is there to do? A guy wrote a book about how he has to put us out of business. Not 10 or 15 years from now, but in 3 or 4. It's in the book. The assets have to stay in the ground. It's in the book. He calls them stranded assets. What else are we going to do? Couple that with the pressure we're going to have from the United States. Drill, baby, drill is going to start taking off. And when it does, all that light, sweet crude, and indeed some heavy crude, is going to flood the market, and all of a sudden Alberta is going to be out of position because we're screwing around with Ottawa? We'll have to do something. And what that looks like, when the historic moment comes, all the things that people think matter don't. They just don't. Like, war by its definition is illegal. But when war happens, it's happening, and it's real. And it doesn't matter what papers you wave in front of a tank. That tank's rolling forward. And that can also be said for the times. When you hit the historic moment, things happen. And I think we get very close to that. Cheers, I'm having a Kokomi and Clamato. I'm supposed to be fasting. Well, you're beer fasting. Tim Pool cried. He was broke for a year, and all of a sudden he had a mansion with a chicken coop. Just saying. Yeah, I don't know much about Tim Pool. I don't know about anybody. I just do what I'm doing. Woodridge. It's Woodford, not Woodridge. Come on. Accuracy. You're going to get me labeled. It's fake news. I'm just playing. I found a bottle of Jack Daniels in an LCBO outlet store that probably was supposed to not have it on the shelves. Nice. Nice. Prohibition booze. Gotta love it. Liberals bringing back prohibition. Woo! We're all drinking illegally. Elections Canada. I read that. 8 minutes and we will get the results for a large part of tonight's IQ test. We're down to 3 minutes, so that tells you I'm a little bit behind. Marks Carney. Frank talking is why we're here. Wait a minute. Somebody say something bad about me? Let's watch election coverage and talk over it. We're not actually watching election coverage. We got a map. That's all we got. We got a map. Why would I want to watch global news? Tell me how bad a person I am. I don't think I'm going to do that. 100% outrage, rubber stamp, jag meat is a joke. Nah, you're good. Tabernacle. Where the number at? Put the number. Oh, over here. So 348 for the Liberals, 269 for the Conservatives. But again, we're dealing with East Coast numbers. Oh, just had a conniption. Well, please stand by for Elections Canada. They didn't upgrade their servers ahead of an election. Who would have known there would have been increased traffic on election night, eh? Like, who would have known? Who could have guessed? You can't fault the bureaucracy for missing little things like this. Sure hope a polling station fire is not an omen of shenanigans to come. I mean, who knows? You know, I've seen videos of ballot boxes being carried around and on public transit and stuff, and all I can say is document that. Document it if you think something's gone wrong. You do the research, read the Elections Act. If you think you've witnessed malfeasance, report it to the cops. But today, treat today like a police interdiction. So when you get pulled over on the side of the road, you can wave some papers around and you can do the free man on a land thing, but it's going to land you in jail with your windows broken out and your car probably seized, and that's all it's going to get you. Or you can answer the cop's question, you can provide all the requested ID, and if they're doing something wrong, you preserve your life, and then you litigate it in court. Today's the same thing. Let the election transpire, document whatever you see, and then deal with the authorities in the aftermath, because I don't know what else you do. Frank, put it in the freezer, friend. Then the taste shines. Yeah, the freezer's way too far away from where I am, so we're just going to have to deal with lukewarm whiskey. Frank Vaughn, try setting your chat to top chat. What does that even mean? What is top chat? I don't know what you're telling me. What happens, Frank, what happens to Canada if the CCP fails? Oh, good things. I mean, if the Communist Party of China fails, we're in good shape. That's good news. That's not bad news. But I don't think you mean the Communist Party. I think you mean the CPC. I think we try to end Canada. If Mark Carney wins, we try to end the country. We have no choice. We have to break it up. And we got to do it fairly quick. We might have to ask for help from outside. Saskatchewan and Alberta cannot stay. It's as simple as that. With the stuff he wrote in that book and the promises that he's made, talking about people subsistence hunting by 2040 without reference to regulation, meaning you'll be eating squirrels to survive. The Prime Minister's office putting out reports that say that. It's a sinking ship. If they get it again, we leave. And we may have to do the same thing if the Conservatives win. But with Mark Carney in, I think that's the only thing you do. You wake up tomorrow morning and you fight for separation. I don't know what else you do. I'm on Vancouver Island, and I can't believe people out here vote NDP. I'm from AB2. Yeah, I don't know. There's something with Vancouver, and it's not even the immigrants. You know, like a lot of people are like, oh, the immigrants, they keep it orange. It's not them. They're the ones that were voting Conservative in the BC provincial election. It's actually the really rich white people in North Van that vote NDP. It's interesting. I'll be watching Toronto very carefully tonight because a lot of those places, in spite of recent election results, they don't want their kids indoctrinated into the gender nonsense and the idea that their kids can change sexes like clothes. They're not into that, man. Whether you like all their family values or not, they have some of them. Critical. My bad, Frank Woodford. I fat-fingered that. All right, I'll take your apology, sir. I'm not going to read that. Gibson 12-year-old whiskey is good stuff. I got a bottle of that, too. It's not open. It's just been in the cupboard for God knows how long. It's a good thing whiskey doesn't go bad, or all of mine would be bad a long time ago. Quebec and all of Western Canada will separate. I think so. I think Quebec is in until there's nothing left to extract. And I think they know that. I think they've known that for a long time. Boilermakers a la MGD and Wild Turkey. I know what that means. I've drank a few of those in my time. Miller Genuine Draft is a really good, underrated beer. Gives people headaches. Some people just can't drink it. I've always liked it. That report was made under Trudeau's budget, even more grim under Carney. It's the same thing, man. Like, I mean, Carney's budget's Trudeau's budget with a little bit of makeup. Like, that's all it is. And it's not even real. Like, you read through those line items, it's like they just sat down and they made it up. I don't believe for a second that it is representative at all of what the government actually intends to do. I think it's far worse. Exactly, protect your kids. Old hippies from BC couldn't toke, just choke. Oh my God, this chat, it just keeps bouncing all over the place. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know about this set to top thing. Oh, wait, I do have it set to top. Let's try just live chat. Why not? Just poured a glass of delicious bourbon, Long Branch, ready to rock. I think I tried that one once. I got a buddy down in Estevan. Am I saying that right? Estevan. He's big into his bourbons. Every time I go down there, it's there's a headache happening for sure. Frank, I have a positive person with big evidence of voter fraud. What now, please? Like I said, document it and get ready to go public. Because I've asked 3 people this week who said they saw things. I'm like, you have to put it in your name. You got to go public with it. And they're like, well, but the left is so angry. And it's like, I'm here every day. Here's my face. You know my name. I'm still here. I've been here for 10 years, on and off, admittedly. And there was that one time when people started showing up in my house, or at my house, but I digress. You'll be fine. But you got to go public. You know, and you have to document what you've seen, and you have to go public. You have to be willing to tell your story publicly. Anonymous won't work. I guarantee the East Indians in BC would vote to join the United States. Probably true. Our future gonna be like a sci-fi TV show like Last of Us and Fallout by 2040. I'm so outside of television or production TV references. I just don't. Saskatchewan Pilsner, nectar from the gods. I have a confession to make. I have not yet drank Pilsner since I moved here. I should probably fix that. I feel like that's a rite of passage. I haven't completed it yet, but yeah, I haven't had anybody to drink it with. So, you know, I rarely drink. I think the last time I got into it was May of last year. And I got into it a bit hard that time. All right, just got home from work. What did I miss of the results front? For what it's worth, I'm just cracking a pill. The sass coming out of me right on. Quebec going liberal is new. Well, let's do that. 5 votes, 1 poll in. 25 votes, 1 poll in. You can't go off 1 poll. You got to wait for at least 10%, and then you get an idea of how the riding's actually going to go. In some ridings, that doesn't hold true either, depending on how the votes spread out. This is all... Let's see. Let's go to Max's riding. How's he doing? He's got 30 votes. He can come from behind. Conservatives are at 62.5. Ironically, that's the exact number that Max used to get in that riding. Was 62%. That was his highest total there. I wish we could check on Singh, but nothing's happening there yet. Let's see. Do we have anything from... We're going to watch Nepean and Carlton tonight. Of course, Nepean is Carney's riding, and Carlton, of course, is Poilievre's. And the media has been selling us the narrative that Poilievre is in danger of losing his riding. So we're going to find out. We're going to find out just all about that. There's no real surprises in Ontario yet. So we'll just have to wait and see. Ooh. Woo! Yeah, I mean, there's really nothing entertaining going to happen out west. Like, it's going to go blue. They're talking. I remember seeing a thing about how the Liberals were beating the Conservatives in Alberta. It's like, yeah, sure they are. I think that was Icos. I think he had the Liberals doing like 52% or something in Alberta. And it's like, man, The guy just I don't mind blowing smoke. But this guy it's like a forest fire, but there's no fire. It's just smoke. Frank, yes, he went public on YouTube. Can I send it to you, Frank? Yeah, you can send me an email, frankvaughn@gmx.com. The same email that you can send e-transfers to, you can send regular email to, and I'll see it. Pilsner is a good beer back in George Jones' day. And wailing country songs, man. I just want to throw on some country music right now. I love that old country. I think like the newest country that I've gone to, well, there is some new stuff that I like, but it's not mainstream new. Like it's like YouTuber new. My cutoff is pretty much Garth Brooks, like that era. Like I think I don't know if I can say country music peaked there. I think country music peaked a long time before that. I love Johnny Cash, Merle Haggard, Chris Christopherson, like anybody that could tell a good story to music. So it's funny because I love country music, but I also like really heavy metal. And I don't know how you marry those two concepts together. I actually have this controversial idea that Johnny Cash pioneered heavy metal lyrics because for instance, he's got this one song and it's three dudes in the desert slowly dying of thirst. And the whole song is just all three of them dying in sequence. And the end of the song is they're all dead. I'm like, that's pretty real life. You know, that's that you could throw some electric guitars to that and make a song about it. And, you know, you pretty much got heavy metal. In the day, it was old stock, Aldo, known as high test. We're talking about pot now. We're getting into the weeds. Red Sylvain, my dad. You know what? That's awesome. My dad used to talk about Red Sylvain, and I'm going to write that down because that's something I've never listened to, and I know Dad used to love it. And until you mentioned it, I think it's been 20 years since I thought about that word. That's awesome. Thank you so much for that. We'll see what Dad was talking about. Jay Gavin, check him out. Stuck Mojo, The Perfect Mary. Folsom Prison Blues, yep. And I shot a man in Reno just to watch him die. Oh, I hear that lonesome whistle. I hang my head and cry. Billy Strings, yep. Billy Strings is epic. There's some really good stuff. Like my wife's into bluegrass, so like she introduced me to Mumford & Sons, Watch House, Mandolin Orange. It's a lot of fiddle music, and I wouldn't choose to listen to it on my own, but when she's got it on, I'm listening to it. I guess I shouldn't say I wouldn't. It's not that I wouldn't choose to listen to it. It's just it wouldn't be my first go-to. When I want to listen to music, most of the time I want something really energetic. Like sometimes I even get into some techno thump. Like there's this chick that does rave stuff. I think she's German. Her name is Rouge. I really like her stuff. Do you like Eric Gales? Never heard of him. Frank, you should check out Ryan Upchurch. He does country, rap, and rock. There's a combo. Country Like the Highwayman, Phantom 309. Look at all these names. Type O negative? Yeah, man. I used to listen to Type O negative back in high school. I used to have the T-shirt that was Peter Steele standing all muscle-bound holding a pickaxe. And the T-shirt said, "Provide, protect, procreate, our pledge to women." It really upset my girlfriend when I'd wear that one. But I did anyway, at times. That's ancient history now. Celtic punk and fiddles are my jam. Yep, some good stuff out there. Bluegrass, Ricky Skaggs. Frank, show the top of the screen so we can see that. Oh yeah, I'm sorry. Yeah, we're here to cover the election, folks. CPC's at 31. Mark's Carney at 41. Let's see. So it's starting to fill in now. So I guess we should start getting set for duty and stop talking about music. But there's only, I mean, it's still thin. Like one poll. I don't expect the CPC to stay. Like, I can't, these numbers. I don't see it staying with the Liberals at 50%. That doesn't make any sense to me at all. But then again, do I even understand this country anymore? Fundamentally, we've gone in a pretty different direction. One poll. We still don't have Carlton or Nepean. How's Max doing? 4.4%. He's climbing out of the basement. One poll. Like, yeah, none of this is any good. It's so early yet. We got to give it a few more minutes before we get really enthusiastic, which is probably why I'm rambling on about music. Yuck. That's orange. One poll there. 9 polls there, but then again, what is this? What is this abomination? I don't actually know where the, if there are. There's no NDP ridings except Edmonton, if I'm not mistaken about Alberta. All right, back to the numbers. I'll keep it there while I read the chat. Can you guys see that okay? My big fat head's not blocking anything? Guess I am a little bit. I can move myself over. Highwaymen with Johnny Cash and Willie Nelson. Yep, that's pretty awesome. Jeez, there we go again with this. Conservatives 35, 38 now. Still, it's just early. Slayer's all right, but like, man, the problem I have with heavy metal, and this has always been a problem that I have, is that so much of it is so overtly anti-Christian, and it bothers me. It's so trite. Like, trying to find really hard heavy metal that isn't satanic in some way is a task. I love the way the music sounds, but most of the time I can't stand the lyrics. And I like to sing my music that I listen to. Like, if I can't sing it, it's no good to me. So the only way around it is if I don't know the lyrics to a song, I can listen to it until I figure out what the lyrics are. And then if I don't like the lyrics, I don't listen to it anymore. Like, I'm really picky that way. But that being said, there's still some really good music out there. Like, Slayer's tight. I don't know. Even when I was younger, I didn't really get the whole Slayer thing. The dragon's head needs to be more blue? I don't know what we're talking about. Good Lord. 52 to 38. Leave the numbers on the screen. We don't want to look at you. Thank you, Bim Jim. Appreciate the clarity. Don't hold back. People, don't forget to hit the like button. Yeah, I guess you should do that. Like, share, subscribe, all those things I'm supposed to say. You can do that. I've seen Slayer live 3 times. Yeah, man, you know what I'd like to see before they're done is Metallica. But it's not going to happen. Am and Amarth. Yep. Yeah, they're tight. They're really tight. There's some of the best, like Cry of the Blackbirds. Man, that is just driven. It's so beautiful. Such a beautiful song. They have a lot of them. There's a song that describes, there's a bunch of them. Because all they sing about is Norse mythology. And there's so many epic songs and so many epic battles. What page you watching? Global News. I don't know. I find that they've got the best. They just give you the numbers. They got a nice interactive map. Is there a better one? Tell me if there's a better one. We'll check it out. But the last few elections, like even provincially, I find Global's the best. What do we got here? York Center. That's Roman Bavers. Yeah. They're tight. They're all tight, but it's so early. Whoops. Again, it's early, but the BQ, man, they don't look as healthy as I thought they might at this point. Wouldn't that be funny if they don't do as well in Quebec? Because I've been sitting here anticipating 30 or 40 seats, you know. What if they don't get it? What if they literally just don't get it? That's a possibility, right? Jug Meat has one too many projected seats. Yeah, I don't know. I've been thinking 3 this whole time. Looking at these numbers, like 4.4%. Now, admittedly, we're not in BC yet, but 4.4% is pretty weak. So, I mean, it could be. They could be held to single digits for sure. I think single digits is a shoo-in, actually. I think it's a lock. I don't believe these numbers. Yeah, I don't know. We'll see. Frank, I sent the fraud to your email. I'll check it out. I'll check it out later on. I got you. Don't worry, I'll get it. Instead of elbows up, it's grab your ankles if the Liberals win. Yep. I'm not going to be grabbing my ankles. I'm going to be heading for the door. Frank Vaughn, we getting hopeful yet? I don't know. I don't know. It's kind of a wait-and-see situation at the moment. CCR is top-notch. Yeah, they're pretty good. I haven't listened to them a long time, but there was a time in my life where that was all I listened to. Metallica is amazing, expensive now, but worth it. Yeah, it's kind of funny how they evolved, eh? Like they were super tight in the 80s and the 90s, and then they kind of fell off, and their live act was pretty terrible through the early aughties. And then they got super tight again. And now they're like, they're one of the best acts out there if you can afford the price of a ticket. Lots of foreign interference, yeah. Canada's a captured state. If you guys have been watching my work, you know what I think. Foreign interference is a way of life here now. Manitoulin Island, Cons leading where I live, always was NDP. What do you guys see out there? Do you see a lot of conservative signs? Do you see a lot of NDP signs? Like, what's it looking like? We still got a lot of counting to do, folks. So I say it's still pretty hard to infer anything. I'd like to see some of these GTA seats flip. Like, I don't understand some of the most heavy places where, like, some of them are like, I don't understand it. I don't know how the GTA can stay red this cycle. Doesn't make sense to me. I can see chunks of it, but the boroughs should be doing something different. Whether they do or not remains to be seen. This thing's been red. Yeah, there we go. Okay, that's better. You just got to shake it. You got to shake the screen a little bit to get her all set up. Is Elections Canada back yet? PPC still at 0.8%. The NDP, though, 31,000 votes. They all went Liberal. That's the Conservatives' biggest challenge right now, is a unified left that believes the narrative that Pierre Poilievre is Trump North. I don't understand it. I don't understand how... I use the phrase I don't understand. I actually do understand it. When you get your information from the tube, when you have a demography like Canada has, which is really top-heavy, it skews elderly. They're hypnotized by their TVs. It's very... And Trump doesn't make it easy. He's braggadocious. He's loud. He's boisterous. He's... Everything that Canadians of that generation pride themselves on not being, that's Trump's personality. So really the conditions for the propaganda to work are very well entrenched in the Canadian public mind, at least of that generation. They buy into it. And there's a lot of them. There's a lot of them. And they vote in large numbers. It's quite the story, actually, it's quite the story of a certain generation holding back the youth. But like I said before, I kind of pity them. I kind of understand the mentality. Why is Eastern Canada so stupid? Not all of Eastern Canada. There's millions of good people back there, and they get it. They're just often outnumbered by the millions who don't get it. Darren Chichak. If that's actually your last name, Chichak, that's an awesome last name. Chichak. Sounds like a gun cycling. Chichak. What needs to happen for Blue to win, Frank? Explain it to me like I'm 10. Well, they got to get votes. To make it simple, they have to get more votes than the Liberals in many ridings, and they're going to have to win more ridings than the Liberals do with the more votes that they get. That's how I would explain it to a 10-year-old. They got to have a strong showing in Ontario, and we're kind of waiting for those numbers to come in. They got to do well in at least some of these GTA boroughs. Like, they have to pull some seats there. They don't need a lot. They just need some. And they need to sweep the rural ridings. These are all small samples, so I don't really give them much credit. And we're still waiting on the Carney-Polyev duel. We're still waiting on Jagmeet Singh's riding. Let's check in on Max. Maxime's climbing. He's almost at 5% now. He's getting there. And where's that Green Party guy at? Is he in Guelph? Is that where they put him? Where the heck is Guelph? No. I have no idea where that guy is. The two leaders. The dual leaders. The church did so good when it had two popes at the same time. Dual leadership is such a good idea. Killer Dwarfs rock, so do Disciples of Power. I think we're getting into the weeds musically here. I am not waiting. I say Wexit or 51. Well, it's going to be coming down to that, I think, if we don't get the result tonight that we might be looking for. You're underestimating the grass was a 10-year-old. Believe me, I know. Maybe true. I was trying to be funny, and it didn't come off that way. Bronze Snake. Carney was seen eating ramen noodles with 2 pencils. Was he using the lead tips to scoop up the noodles? Even if the cons get more votes, it doesn't matter. It only matters if they win the ridings. Yeah, it depends on how efficient the vote is, too. Could work the other way, too. Like, if the Liberal vote's inefficient. So, it remains to be seen. Sorry. I'll try and remember to put the numbers back up. Oh, my God. The NDP at 4.3. That's not good. The collapse of the NDP is not good. I think I better... We'll finish it off. That's only taken several years and 2 provinces to get done, but we finally got it done. Let's make North America great again. You should probably get that Mexican flag out of there. Mexico would not be good for North America if it was included in the big umbrella. Mexico needs to be its own place. The effect that Mexico would have joining a union of North America would be so bad for everybody else in that union. Elections Canada website still wrong on numbers. Yeah, I think it's just broken. I mean, it's just stuck here loading. Yeah, it's broken. There's too many people trying to use it at the same time. That's my guess anyway. It's trying, but it ain't getting anywhere. Which makes you wonder, where exactly where's Global News pulling their numbers from if Elections Canada is not working? Maybe they must have a back end or something that we don't have access to as plebs out here. Thank you, darling. Anytime somebody calls me darling, I hear it in an accent. Thank you, darling. Darling. The government will never teach children how to overthrow the government. True. Alberta and Saskatchewan need not be part of Canada anymore. True. 64-year-old Albertan voted Conservative. However, Alberta Independence Rally, May 3rd, 2025, 1 p.m. Alberta Legislator grounds. Time to leave Alberta first. There you go, guys. Rally, May 3rd, 1 p.m. The Alberta Legislature. Be there or be square. There's also, I saw on that Sean Newman spot that I did. He was talking about something that's going on May 10th, which is my birthday in Calgary. Some kind of thing. I got to try and remember to look into that. Hold on a sec. I just saw something about CBC panicking. Lord, this chat, it's just everywhere. CBC shows 80 Liberals, Conservative 56. CBC are all smiling, tells a lot. Yeah. Their jobs are on the line, right? It's not just that they're a state broadcaster. It's that this guy's campaigning to put them all out of work. It's a real shame that we create a media climate where that's even a scenario that's possible, that CBC could be reacting in the way that they are because we designed it that way. Like we designed a media climate like this. I don't know. And I mean, what does the Conservative Party do if they lose? Like, are they going to turf Pierre? And again, where do they go? Like, it's such a bad scenario. Carney wins. The Liberals form government. They get a mandate. He does what he says he's going to do. The most disappointed people with his plan are going to be the people who vote for him. They're going to have a huge wake-up call. When they find the country's collapsing around them, and all of a sudden there's no money to pay for all the bureaucracy, they're going to have serious buyer's remorse. But it also fractures the right. Where does the right go? If they turf Pierre, where does the Conservative Party go? He's all they have at this point, in my opinion. I know that Tim Houston, who's the Premier of Nova Scotia, is flirting with the idea of running for leader. God help us. There's a lot more on the line here than just Canada or just this election. Like it's such a multifaceted, consequential election. It would be amazing to me to see the country hand it to the Liberals again. I wouldn't even really understand that. I still sitting here right now, I don't believe it to be possible. But I could be completely wrong. You know, these are all still really early, folks. Don't get too disappointed or upset at this stage. Save it for a little later on because now's not the time. We got to wait for more numbers, which is why we're talking about music and having a drink. I voted blue. Good for you. Sorry, we got to get back up to the numbers again. There you go. I mean, it's not terrible. And like I said, it's early. So don't derive huge conclusions out of what you're seeing, especially the popular vote total. It is what it is. Canada's Westminster Parliament is meant to rule over you. Nothing will change. Wexit. Yeah, that's true. It's designed for top-down rulership. Miss Grandma, I feel like vomiting. Don't do that to yourself. Not yet. I mean, vomiting has such consequences. First, you got to do it. And then if you don't get to the can, you got to clean that up. And then your throat's on fire and you got that bad taste in your mouth. Like, do you really think politicians are worth putting yourself through that? Don't do that to yourself. Keep it inside. I'm 100% ready to vote for Western independence. If the Liberals con their way in again, it's only a matter of time. Frank, do you think BC would join a Western separatist movement with the NDP in office, doing the things that they're doing right now? I don't know about that. And then you have the fact that the BC Conservative Party, as soon as the election was over, turned into a gong show. We were up to 3 MLAs now that left? And there's still BC Conservatives that are voting against their party in the House or in the legislature. BC politics are once again a gong show, and the NDP's in power and looking like they're going to stay there and taking more emergency powers for themselves. It's almost like they're getting themselves set up to be a doting satellite of a Carney government in Ottawa. So you asked, do I think they could join? I think there's millions of people in BC who would like to. Will it happen? I'm not so sure. Alberta and Saskatchewan might be on our own here, and maybe Quebec. But if Quebec leaves, they're going to go their own way. It's going to be a separate direction from what the West, and meaning Alberta and Saskatchewan, do. And Manitoba might want to go, but Winnipeg's a big city. Greatly outnumbers the population of the rural ridings, and it's fully in control of WAB Canoe right now. And WAB is off to seizing people's property to turn it into parks. People who own tracts of land to create developments, to build that housing. They keep talking about all this housing shortage stuff. And WAB the guy had all the permits, owned the property, was breaking ground, and WAB came along and said, nope, we're just going to take it. We're going to turn it into a park. We got to stop the chainsaws. So Manitoba ain't coming. So it's up to Smith and Moe. And maybe if the movement gains steam, maybe later on they'll join along. I mean, I think WAB has a great opportunity to be a Native American hero in this story. But I don't think he's going to take it. I don't think he has the vision for it. I don't think there's the desire for it. I mean, the fact that this election's close, geez, looking at these numbers, it's terrible. The fact that it's going this way tells you a lot about the country that you're living in. And maybe there's some people that are in this country that this country is no longer compatible with, living in Alberta and Saskatchewan. Mark has told us, your assets are going to be stranded. Your prosperity's over. He has said, we'll print all kinds of money and we'll subsidize you. We'll give you a basic income to compensate you for your losses, but you're not going to be allowed to prosper. And we know where that goes. And we have a one-of-a-kind opportunity right now, right here, with Trump in the White House, with a reordering of the world to create a new outcome. And people say there's no legal mechanism. Like, how are you going to do it? Where's the teeth? Where's the bones? The historic moment creates those things. They don't exist before the historic moment arrives. You're living in history. You're living those times. This is a fourth turning. The similarities are with the 1930s, not the 1920s. And a lot of change happened in those years. Everywhere. This is worldwide. So if these status quo politicians like Mark Carney want to take Canada into the socialist utopia, we in the West have a choice to make. And maybe if we make that choice effectively enough, others will follow along with us. Because, even the left governments that are out here understand fundamentally that the prosperity of the West has come from fighting with Ottawa, not with cooperating with Ottawa. It's a 150-year history of Ottawa opposing anything that would make Western Canada stronger. There's bones on this. There's meat on this, There's a narrative to run with. Me and my friends are ready for anything ride or die for Western independence. You're going to see more of that. The political ponerology is going to continue. Canada's fallen. I have no idea what ponerology is. I've never seen that word before in my life. Paul Schofield. How could this happen? It hasn't happened yet, Miss Grandma. Calm down. It hasn't happened just yet. Still a long night to go. Hey, Frank, made it to the chat. Things are starting to get interesting. I haven't given up hope. Good, Kelly. Sad numbers. Yeah. We'll have to crack open that Gibson's. Nope. I got some open makers, Mark. If I see the need, I will get into that. I also have cold beer. I got enough of that. I don't want to wake up with a headache tomorrow. Could be trying to create a new country by tomorrow morning. Seems pretty clear to me what we have to do. Like I said, out of this election, the best thing that we're going to get is clarity one way or another. And if Polyev can squeak out a win, you know, we have to hope that he's successful doing what he's doing because we beat Mark Carney. But all the problems still exist, and we're still going to have to work on them, and we're still going to have to hold the Conservative Party of Canada accountable. That doesn't change. The only thing that really changes is the way that we approach the problem and the type of passion we engage when we approach that problem. One big sucking sound. Yep, you're talking about the United States, the great big vacuum cleaner that's going to steal all of our money, our wealth, and our business, and perhaps our best people. Maybe I'm a fool for staying. I mean, I love Saskatchewan. Instead of going to the United States, I kind of want to take Saskatchewan and Alberta to the United States. We'd do better. God knows there's enough American flags flying around here, at least where I live. It's a beautiful province. I live in a beautiful spot. My kids are happy. They're starting to make friends. My wife's flourishing. It's hard to want to uproot and leave, and then if I leave, what do I do? You know, in a Carney-led Canada, is there going to be anybody there to buy my house? Like, I don't want to leave. I don't want to leave. Others can. I'm not judging them for it, but I personally don't want to. But it is going to be one big, giant sucking sound. The United States is getting geared up for the next 4 years, and man, oh man, Canada's not going to be able to compete with this guy. In fact, I think his mission is to destroy Canada. He's here to sacrifice us to stop Trump. And we can't do it on our own, but we can be a piece. Death by 1,000 cuts. I think that's the new globalist plan, is to undermine Trump by 1,000 cuts. Mexico and the rest of Latin America should unite and become strong on their own. They have differences of opinions between the countries, too. Let's see, what do we got going on? Still a 30-seat spread. Are we getting more numbers in yet? There's still a lot not counted, too. So, like I said, folks, take it easy. Take it easy. Like Barry's only a 32 vote spread with 4 polls reporting. Bruce Gray, 2 polls, 16 vote spread. 5 polls, 146 votes. That's a little bit bigger, but again, early. Oh, we got a little bit from Nepean. Mark's Carney. He's got 72%. But again, only 1 poll. What they called it? The media's called it? They called it. Oh, wow. They called it. Well, we have clarity. We have clarity. CTV called it, Global called it, everybody's called it. It's rigged. Again, document it. If you've got evidence, document it. Time to man up, y'all. Yep. Man, oh man. Make use of your free speech while you have it. Bill C-63 will be coming back. And at this point, you're going to have to rely on your provincial governments for protection from the feds. So, starting tomorrow morning, if you live in Alberta and Saskatchewan, you should be communicating with your MLAs, indicating your concerns with this impending government and the things that they're going to do. Open that dialogue, because you're going to need the provinces to protect you against a federal government that is going to go into a mode of extremity, unlike anything we've ever seen before. It's very tempting to call this fake. It's very tempting to call this rigged. I understand the sentiment. But the collapse of the NDP is real. And the Trump derangement syndrome is also very real. And I think those two things on their own can explain a lot of what we're seeing. Trump throwing around this 51st state talk has really shook a lot of people, and not in a good way, not favorably towards it. They're not favorably disposed towards Donald Trump taking over Canada. You can argue that none of it was real, and that's fine, but it had a psychological effect. I honestly think that this is the outcome that Trump wants. Because if you're going to weaken Canada, it would have been harder to do under Poilievre. Poilievre would have extended things for a while. Mark Carney cements things much more quickly. Like I said, clarity. Things will move a lot faster now with Carney in office if this holds. I don't see how it doesn't hold. I mean, they called the election, for crying out loud. Oh, man. It's that fear of Donald Trump, you know. It really works on a lot of people. This this country hates him. I should see how Poilievre's doing in Carlton. Nothing yet. This is why I don't normally stream on election nights, because I'm often really quiet and thoughtful. Let's see what chat's saying. This country blows. I understand the sentiment. Trump's son-in-law knows Carney's money loan. Well, there is money flying around between the Trump family and the Trump, like Elon Musk, Trump, Carney. There's links there. That is a fact. The corrupt, complicit media is calling it. Yep, we're tucked. Do you think Daniel Smith has what it takes to lead Albertans to a referendum if Carney wins a majority? I think Daniel Smith will be dragged there by her people. If she doesn't have it, she's going to find it. Because Alberta and Saskatchewan cannot do this. We can't do this. The man has campaigned on destroying everything that we are. We can't stay in this country. Scotty Moe has already come out and said, if this is the result, not today, previously, if this is the result, you have a constitutional crisis. He's not kidding. We are American aligned. We want to pull the resources out of the ground. We want to prosper. We're built for Fortress North America. We're not built for Socialist Canada. We're not built for Mark Carney. He's not even that good a socialist. Brookfield, central banks, printing money by the billions and handing it out to his friends. What in the ever-living... I don't understand the liberal mind. I don't understand how they can possibly look to him for salvation, except for the fact that Donald Trump is the big boogeyman and that has been effective messaging. And I think people are going to be really surprised at what Mark gives them. There's going to be so much buyer's remorse. It's so early, too. Like, why did they call it so early? I mean, is BC even closed yet? I think we still got 10 minutes before we get anything out of BC. No, we got BC closed. I guess they just figure it ain't enough. I don't know. Seems kind of early to me. But then again, it's the media. We've been saying this entire time that they are complicit with the liberal government. I mean, you go to who pays your bills, whoever butters your bread. You protect your paycheck. Maybe that's enough to explain it. It's just a matter of self-preservation. And I mean, I guess what you got to do now is you got to hope the BQ pulls out a big victory in Quebec. More than what they've got now. They need more. You got to hope for a strong BQ in Quebec, which will strengthen the sovereignist hand out here, because that's where we got to go now. We got to go towards sovereignty. Not just autonomy. Western separatism. We have to do it. Alberta and Saskatchewan, we have to do it. And we can't take no for an answer from our politicians. And we have to consider outside the box thinking about how to get it done. And we may have to ask for help. I don't know what else you do. To stay and cooperate with Canada the way that it's going to be under Mark Carney is the end of our prosperity. It's the end of our chance. It's been hard enough for the last 150 years out here. It only gets harder now. Net zero is the end. Period. Net zero means zero money, except what the state prints. And I don't know, maybe there's a political solution. Like, there isn't. We don't have time. We can't screw around for the next 4 years fiddling with the curtains while the house burns. If the CPC couldn't get it done, then we have to look to the provinces. And I've been saying this for years, that the provinces are my hope. That's where my chips are. It's at the provincial level. But now we got to convince the provinces to go one step further. You have to checkmate Ottawa. And I think you got to get out. I mean, I know the answer. Nobody read his book. Not even his voters. I bet they couldn't even get through the first chapter of that thing. It's so dry. It's so analytical. And the first 150 pages are largely dedicated to the history of the financial crisis. So you have to wade through that to get to the part where he talks about how the world has to be completely re-engineered around this concept of net zero and how that affects everybody. And he calls out Alberta and Saskatchewan specifically for destruction. Now, he says he's going to print some money and make everybody feel good. But as I said on the Sean Newman podcast, free money from the government doesn't create meaning. Free money from the government has to come from somewhere. It has to be robbed from all the other producers. People in Alberta and Saskatchewan don't want free money. They want livelihoods. What just happened? Apparently the map just calved out. There we go. I am not listening to mainstream commentary. Not gonna happen, man. Oh, folks. It is what it is. We're here now. We just have to deal with the cards we're dealt. Let's see how sentiment is in the chat. Fake, scam, everything went blank. China map effect. Need AI to read through and create bullet points and summarize where his brain is, but you still need to go in there and read it. PP is a loser. Well, I'll tell you, when you have the entire bureaucracy, the entire media environment, the United States podcasting community, every single person in this country did everything they could to make sure that Polyev got defeated. So here we are. They got their wish. And they're all going to have to live with it. Because I don't know how people couldn't see how bad Carney was by comparison. Now, I can understand when you looked at Aaron O'Toole and Justin Trudeau, it's like, what's the difference? There wasn't much of one. There was a difference here on many things. The most important difference is Polyev didn't run Brookfield. Polyev didn't run two central banks. Polyev didn't hobnob with Mario Draghi and look to him as a mentor. Carney is the worst. Just the worst. Worse than Trudeau. And he's going to lead. He's going to sit atop of the Liberal government, and he's going to be leading the ship in the direction that he sees fit. In his book, he calls it massive, overwhelming use of state power. He's an advocate for it. Whether he believes the world's going to end because of climate change, I don't know if he actually believes those words that he says. But he's certainly going to engineer his policy around that concept, which means the end of prosperity via energy and production. He's a friend to China. He's anti-American. What's Saskatchewan and Alberta to do? You know who gives us their capital? The Americans, not Canada. Canada takes. They treat us like a territory. They extract value. They ship it around the country. And now we got a guy who claims, at least, maybe he folds when he gets sitting across the table from Donald Trump, because that's the other thing you don't know. Nobody knows what Carney's actually going to do because he contradicts himself so readily. Maybe he folds, but if he doesn't fold, he's dedicated to a trade war and issuing an edict that Alberta and Saskatchewan have to be the first over the wall to suffer for Canada. So what choice do we have? And we don't have a year. We don't have 2 years. We got to have this pretty well figured out by midsummer. We have to know where we're going. And by fall, we got to be well on our way there, because things are going to happen quickly. Those leases in the United States are getting snapped up. The oil is going to start pumping, and Alberta is going to be way out of position. If we align ourselves with Ottawa, we're going to be left behind. And we're going to be part and parcel with the destruction that Mark Carney has promised to bring to Canada. His own PMO office saying that by 2040, you'll be sustenance hunting for food. This country, what did they put in the water? Oh, let's go check on Jagmeet. Let's hope he loses his seat. You know, the one good thing that could come out of today is Jaggers not having a seat anymore. Where the hell's Burnaby Central? There's nothing here yet. Oh, well, I guess we'll wait on that one, too. I mean, there's still a lot of votes to be counted. I can't believe they called it so early. You'd think in such a hotly contested election that if they were actually concocting a script, they would at least wait and pay the process the lip service that it arguably deserves. But instead, they just went full speed ahead and called it. Max has got 5%, doing his part. We still don't have anything from Carlton. Mark Carney's got 67.7% in Nepean. Like, I don't want to jump to the conclusion that the whole thing's rigged, because it takes an incredible amount of coordination to pull something off on a national scale. There's a lot of eyes on it. So you have to at least be open to the possibility that everything that you're seeing is 97 or 98% real. There's always going to be some edge cases. I don't think you'll ever eliminate edge cases. And I think you can explain what you're seeing just by the extreme mental duress that the Canadian public is under when it comes to Donald Trump being the orange man bad. They really genuinely believe it, that he's the worst thing ever. And if the Liberals, the big red machine, they're not very good at governing, but they're incredible at propaganda, were successful at delivering their message to the Canadian public that Pierre Poilievre is Trump North, then that can explain, it can go a long way to explaining what we're seeing here. And also, the total collapse of the NDP, 4.5%. You know, we always talked about how if the left got together, if there was no NDP, then the Conservatives would never win another government in Canada. And that split was essential to any hope for Conservatives to ever win. Well, now you're seeing that. You know, it's one thing to talk about it for the last 10 years. It's another thing to actually see it visibly and viscerally realized. And the NDP at 4.5%? My God, look at the numbers. 47.6 for the Liberals so far. Now that's going to come down as votes come in Western Canada. The proportions are going to change. You might actually find that they come in line with polling pretty good. Just because I find it unbelievable, because I have done a lot of time and research into the subject matter. I read the book. I reviewed the book. It doesn't mean that everybody understands it the same way. There's a lot of people out there who are just surface level. You know, Mark Carney's going to save us from Trump. That's it. That's as deep as they go. Poilievre's the same as Trump, and that messaging works. The news and politics, to a lot of people, are like I work on this stuff all day. Most people go to work, they come home, they turn on the tube, they play video games, they watch hockey, they do whatever they do. And news is 15 minutes scrolling through TikTok, maybe. Or it's 15 minutes scrolling through your Google News feed. You're lucky. There's a lot of people out there who don't even consume 15 minutes of news a day. And what are they reading? They're not reading full articles. They're reading headlines. And who writes those headlines? A select group of journalists that work for Canadian media companies. So it's actually pretty easy to understand how an entire population, or at least a significant percentage of a population, can be convinced, especially when they're predisposed to being convinced that way. Think about the propaganda offensive when it comes to Donald Trump and how it's not just orange man bad. They promote how he sounds. Like it's such a subtle, it's not even subtle, it's overt and subtle at the same time. Everybody's been programmed for 9 years now with anti-Donald Trump rhetoric. You know, and it became a very effective tool in this election to steamroll the CPC. I don't understand it. Actually, I shouldn't say I don't understand it, because I'm sitting here describing exactly how it works. I can't, but I can believe it because I can understand it and I can describe it. It's difficult for me to accept. Let's put it that way. It's difficult for me to accept that so many people could be so superficial about the future of their nation and the future of their lives and the future of their children's lives, to make decisions based on what they're told rather than doing the research and thinking about things themselves. But here we are. It's real. What are you going to do? The carbon they really want to eliminate is you. I think I'm way behind in the chat. Trump's big mouth ruined the election in Canada. Don't underestimate how much his public statements have enabled Mark Carney. And I genuinely think that Trump wanted this outcome. He didn't want to face a strong conservative government in Canada. He's more than happy to deal with Carney. It's not just the business ties, it's also Mark Carney's record. He's not the greatest guy. It's not like his leadership at the Bank of England is something that a lot of the English look back fondly on. He's a known quantity. He's probably far more useful to Trump than Poilievre. So maybe Trump knew exactly what he was doing by enabling this outcome, by enabling Mark Carney. Like I said, I think the buyer's remorse is going to be pretty epic in 6 months to a year when his voters see what they voted for. I think they'll figure it out. F this, I'm going to get effed up. Take it easy, RB. Don't go too far because you'll just have to deal with a hangover tomorrow morning. Europe will collapse with Canada right behind them, man. Yep. We're in trouble. I'm in trouble. We're all in trouble. You know, the thoughts that go through my mind, it's like, at least there's deer. There's that subsistence hunting coming along. At least I live where there's deer. I got a wood stove. You know, I don't think the government can take my house for not paying property taxes. I think it's going to take them a while to do that. There is the speech implications, all the work that I do and I put online. A bill like C-63 could adversely affect my life. I think I might have to be more strategic. I'm certainly not going to let it change my trajectory. And like I said, you might have to count on the provincial government to protect your human rights because the federal government's going to come for them. It's not easy to move to the United States. Not for everyone, it isn't. Not for most. We are all in trouble. This is Pat Lee. The people forget everything Liz Truss said about Carney. Nobody cares what Liz Truss said. That's the problem. There's a lot of people who only care what CBC said. There's a lot of people who only care about what liberal politicians say and talking heads say. There's a lot of people who only care about the fact that the Orange Man is bad and believe sincerely that Pierre Poilievre is the Orange Man North. Superficial, low information, and they got the same vote that you have. They have the same power that you have. Trouble is on the way fast. Canada has fallen. Now, wouldn't it be interesting if the Liberals are forced to govern with the Bloc? That could put a serious check on Carney's plans for sure. There's also an outcome, depending on how this all goes. It's not looking like it's going to happen, but an outcome where the Conservatives, had enough seats with the Bloc that they could challenge the Liberals through a coalition if the Liberals aren't able to form a government. Because, imagine these numbers hold. They can't govern with the New Democrats. They need the Bloc to govern. So there's a lot of things that are still not set. My personal preference is not a minority government. It depends on your perspective. I mean, if you're going for Western independence, then this doesn't really change anything for you. This is directionally, this just cements your direction that much more. If it was a conservative government, it's a bit looser. The timetable's a bit screwed up. There's less pressure on Moe and Smith to actually act decisively. They can afford to screw around for a while. And we're probably engaged in frippery for the next 2 years. This is there's a way to define it, because I've been struggling with this in my work lately. Is under Carney, the timeline is 6 months. Under the Conservatives, the timeline is 2 years. And in some ways, I prefer the aggressive timeline. But it's incumbent on your provincial political leaders to understand how accelerated the timeline is. And I'm sure they do. I'm pretty confident that Smith understands the position Alberta is in right now. Not just the position of Saskatchewan. It's both of us together. I don't see how you can view the entities as separate. It's Alberta and Saskatchewan stick the rest of the country. And we don't have very long into this Trump administration to make some decisive moves before we are just completely out of position. And we have our fates dictated to us. We got to get real aggressive, real strong. And there's still no results from Carlton. Is that the only place in the entire country? Poilievre's riding has no results. Let's see. Carney's probably winning by, we got 65%. That's some getting up near North Korean numbers. Do we have anything from Burnaby? Let's see. Do we have anything from Burnaby yet? No, we don't have anything. Wait a minute. How's Burnaby? Nope. We still don't have Singh's riding. And they're sitting on 8 seats. Let's go back to that map for a minute. It's just Carlton out. I don't know if there's enough out there for the whole Conservative Bloc potentially challenging the Liberal Party in a coalition. But the way things are looking right now, the Liberals are going to need the Bloc. And that's tricky because the Bloc has said that this country's not real. And I don't think they're going to stand idly by. We're talking about an assertive province here. I've often said they're the model in this federation. If every other province copied them, we would have been better off a long time ago. Whether you like them or not, whether they rip off the country or not, they have set an example to follow. They're very about themselves. And Carney is not about Quebec being about themselves. So this could put a pretty big break on this minority government. And, I mean, looked at that way, I hope the Conservatives are smart enough not to turf Poilievre because they are sunk without him. I don't know where they turn to. There's going to invariably be people say, Bernier can lead the CPC. It's not going to happen. Back to the chat. La La Land seems legit. Trump is the same as Carney. Could very well be. Well, Donald said it was going to get way worse. It could very well be that they've been speaking. Nobody seems to raise that question either. It's like Carney has publicly said, and so has Donald Trump, that they've been in communication throughout this election cycle. I mean, if it was a Conservative Party leader, would that be foreign interference? I don't know. Is there some level of coordination? Might be something that we want to consider. I don't know. We're going to find out. That's for sure. If this country is not real to the Bloc, then they shouldn't be here. No Canadians besides Quebecers can vote for them. Great system we have here in Canada. It's something else. They have done a great job. Well, there we go. You said Carlton just came in? Liberal? Oh, wow. That's one poll, 177 votes. I mean, if Poilievre loses his seat, that's it. Like, that's it. You might as well just... That's it. I don't even know where the Conservative Party goes. You might need somebody from the outside to come in and do something with it. And that's assuming that there's even something to do federally. Because if this is what it is for the next 4 years, or the Liberals can claw their way up to a majority, like all they need is 172 seats, so they need to pick up 14 more. If they get a majority, then the die is cast. Like it's baked in. There's only one thing left to do, at least for Saskatchewan and Alberta. And that's unfortunate for the people who live in Ontario and every other province who are of like mind. There's millions of you who get it. You're awake. You understand. It might be time to vote with your feet. The value proposition's still there. Saskatchewan still has some really cheap housing. It's got low unemployment. There's jobs here. You can actually make a life for yourself working Tim Hortons, grocery stores. Like, you can actually buy a house and you can afford to live here. Like, the value proposition's there. It's just a matter of whether or not you want to take it. And it's there in Alberta too. Maybe to a lesser extent. Certainly not as cheap as Saskatchewan, but I don't know. Ford didn't come out and endorse Poilievre. If anything, he opposed him. Drove the knife right in his back. He might as well have just came out and endorsed Carney. Ontario 3 years ago was too disconcerting for me to want to stay. And I knew I had to get out before that, but I knew 3 years ago it was time to pull the trigger. 3 years has gone by, 36 months. I don't know how much more time you got. It might be time to vote with your feet. And for some stupid reason, the value proposition is still there. If you have anything back east that you can liquidate, it can buy you a little piece of heaven out here. That's my opinion anyway. Maybe it's not for everybody. Can't imagine a majority government under Carney. We're going to be destroyed, no doubt. From Inside R24, votes versus rally numbers, something. Yeah, it's the difficulty with rallies, though. Rallies are filled by motivated people. You know, you look at that Saskatoon rally, it had 4,000 people for Polyev a few days ago. It's 4,000 people, and Saskatoon's a city of 250,000. If you include the surrounding areas and rural areas that were within range, maybe you get up to 500,000, and 4,000 showed up. So that's 4,000 motivated people. It doesn't say anything about the other several 100,000 that didn't show up. Rallies are tough to gauge. If rallies were the metric of ultimate victory and popular support, Donald Trump would have won in a multi-million vote landslide. Instead, he describes it as a landslide. Well, I don't really call it a landslide. It was a solid win, but it wasn't a landslide. And he had the biggest rallies going. Nick Jackson says, can someone tell me why I was told I already voted advanced polls when I did not? They said the same thing to my brother. He did not vote yet at this time. Nick, you need to go public, man. Every one of you guys needs to make a video. Whatever evidence you got, go public. Contact your law enforcement. If you've got evidence that some shenanigans went on, you got to make it public, and you got to make it public in your name. Send an email to Daniel Smith asking for separation. She said she would listen to the people. Very good. And I hope Mo is smart enough to follow along. We got to go together. We can't stay with this thing. Fat Trudeau, Tony fella, yeah. Frank Vaughn, is Canada suffering from Stockholm Syndrome? Yeah. We're a heavily propagandized, very broken people. As I said earlier in the stream, like I actually have a lot of sympathy and empathy for people. Like it was bad before COVID, but in the post-COVID world, there are people who are literally mentally broken and they'll never be okay again. And they vote with the same authority as you do. That's one of the principal problems with democracy, is that the lowest information voter has as much power as the highest information voter. And the fact of the matter is that 70 to 80% of the population is swayed by fear alone. And if you can figure out what that percentage of the population is scared of, and you fan the flames of that fear, you can corral them into whatever you want. And here we are. A lot of the people who voted for Mark Carney were voting for change. Believe it or not, they were. They believe that change was swapping Trudeau out for this guy. Exact same damn government. Riding into Parliament underneath him. Exact same people. And there are those who will believe that it's change. I lived out east for almost a decade. There are good people out there, but they have chosen their path. The West will choose its path. I agree. And if you want to choose that path too, it might be time to vote with your feet. You don't have much time left. I've been warning people for years that it was time. Okay? We don't have years anymore. Now it's months. Make your plan. Be careful. Think about your situation. You ultimately make your decisions. You ultimately have the answers to the best course of action for your own life. But if it were me looking at it again, I have no regrets about bringing my kids here. None whatsoever. Half the time I wake up and I'm happy with at least half the time I'm happy with what the Sask government's doing. That's a unique feeling, being happy with your government. That's something I've never experienced before, at least half the time. People here are good. The public school system is in better shape than it is in some of the more populated provinces. It's got its imperfections. I mean, I wouldn't take kids down to Regina. I'd want to live somewhere else. Rural community, small towns, that's where the housing's cheap and there's work. I don't have any regrets. Now, there are people who... What's this other that just popped up? Is that Dijon guy? I wonder if that's that Dijon guy. Where the heck was his riding? I can already hear these people are just like, it's the PPC. Max made a comeback. Actually, while we're here, where's that Portage Lisker riding? Let's see how the PPC is doing there. This was their best riding in 21. And 2.6%. Tragic. That could have been their first seat. It could have been their first seat if Max hadn't have parachuted himself in there. They would have had a seat, maybe. 5.6% for Max and the Bows, so he's doing great. I wish it would tell us who this is. I wish I could just click on it and go there. You see now the conservative popular vote share is coming up because we're getting heavy vote counts for the West, so I think in the end we're going to land very close. Look at these vote totals, though. I mean, we're still early. That's like just a little north of 3 million votes in a country of 40 million people. Like, is the Elections Canada site working yet? No. This is kind of sketchy. It is kind of sketchy. I mean, where's Global News drawing their numbers from? Like, where are they pulling their data from? Does anybody know? I smell a rat, rigged. Something wrong. Pierre earned this job, especially since COVID. Trump's rhetoric robbed Pierre. It's true. Trump's rhetoric did not help anything. PPC other. Well, tell me what riding it is and what province so I can go and look for it. Oh, it's gone again. Never mind. It's irrelevant. We'll see if it pops back up. Green energy, carbon tax, hoax, scam. We are so screwed when it comes to net zero, man. We are 64 Liberals officially voted in compared to 62 Conservatives so far. Yeah. No, I think everybody, the consensus in the chat is that Trump wanted Carney, and I think you're right. I think he did. There was a lot of people who said that that wasn't the case, that it was just him having fun. I think Carney suits his purpose. If he wants a 51st state, if he wants to dominate Canada, if he wants us to become an economic slave to the United States, Carney's your man. He'll deliver that result. And now he's getting pretty close to the seat total that would allow him to govern with Jagmeet Singh. Jesus Christ, help us. The Bloc and the Conservatives have 160 between them. Wow. Let's see. Carlton's still only... Carlton's so weird. It's so slow for some reason. One poll reporting. Like a lot of these ridings too, like 500 votes in Willowdale, 500 votes, 500 votes, 300 votes in Brampton, 4 votes separating 223. Like, these are early calls, folks. And I know these specific ridings aren't called yet, but to call a Liberal government when the spreads are so thin in a lot of these places just seems irresponsible to me. It seems narrative supporting, you know? I grew up in Saskatchewan. The schools there actually taught the kids in my high school at least the dangers of communism and made us read Animal Farm and the like. Yeah, I read Animal Farm in Ontario when I was growing up, too. I doubt you'd read it now. I'm 22, stuck in the Maritimes, can't find a job in industry. I don't know how I'm going to make it. Oh, Josh, man. I know the feeling, bro. When I was 22, 23 were critical years for me. My dad started popping heart attacks. I went out to help him. That was my intention, was to help him recover. And I found out he was in real bad shape financially. And so I had to stay. And the years from 22 to 25 were the hardest years I ever lived in my life. But I stuck with it. I had a lot of hard nights, man. But I stuck with it. I kept my stick on the ice. And life got better. The way things look today, Josh, is not how they're going to look in 5 years or 10 years. You got to keep that in mind, because I hit some pretty low spots, man. You're 22. You're a young man. Hopefully you're healthy. I don't know. If you're physically able to, the thumbnail there looks like you're not as large as me. I mean, at the waist. Stick with it. I don't know. Maybe consider that move. There's opportunity out there for a young guy, you know? Might just have to change your thinking. Quebec votes for a guy who can't speak French and doesn't disclose his finances. Go figure. Isn't that funny, eh? Just so funny. Anything but Polyev. Anything but Trump. Rosie Barton is singing. Man, it's shameless. Even if she's not singing, they're so shameless. They don't even hide their bias, and then they want to talk and lecture everybody about what media is supposed to be, what independent media is supposed to be, and how they're the real media. And they're so clearly in the tank for the Liberal Party of Canada. It's not how it's supposed to be. We're supposed to do better than that. We're supposed to be a functional democracy. Look at this junk. Jagmeet's got 10. Have we checked? We haven't checked on his seat lately. Let's see what he's got. Three polls in. No, it's nothing. We can't go off that yet. But he's losing. I hope that man loses his job tonight. Man, if we get one thing out of this, it's the end of having to look at his face. I'd almost rather anybody else. I'd rather Trudeau came back and ran for the leadership of the NDP. That would be fun. I don't know. These numbers are looking like, it depends on how this whole thing fleshes out, but it could be a pretty hung parliament. It's not an outcome I wanted. I wanted it clear one way or the other. I wanted the Liberals strong, or I wanted the Conservatives strong, but not this. I don't like this. It muddies the water. It's not done yet, though, so we'll have to see. But it would be interesting if the Conservatives and the Bloc could cobble together enough seats in the House to govern. If the Liberals don't have enough between them and the NDP to cobble together a government, Polyev could still end up prime minister. And I think the Bloc in its current iteration would be more aligned with the Conservative Party, because they're not going to go for... I don't see the Bloc cooperating openly with Mark Carney. Or if they do, he's going to have to really cater to them. He's going to have to look really weak, and he's going to have to back off on a lot of his nationalistic, federalist rhetoric, ideas. I mean, I don't really think he gives a shit about Canada personally, but pardon my French. Allow me that one colloquial on this night. Back to the chat. What do we got? Rip Greens. Yep, it looks like they're locked out. How's Elizabeth May doing? Let's go find her. We haven't checked in on Wino tonight. Because we can't. I think she's Saanich Golf Islands, isn't she? Yeah, we can't. There's no results yet. The resident wino still has a chance. Except Pierre keeps slagging off every one of his potential allies. I actually have a lot of... What's he supposed to do when he's got everybody attacking him from every single side? Like, what is he supposed to do? Everybody wants him to come out swinging and acting like Donald Trump. That's not going to sell in Canada. It doesn't work up here. Not yet, anyway. Not in the current political climate. If it worked, maybe Bernier wouldn't be stuck at 5% in the Beauce. Like if again, allow me a colloquial, if being total assholes was actually a sufficient strategy for winning elections in Canada, the PPC would have formed a majority a long time ago. Before 10 o'clock this morning, while I was pondering my second coffee of the day, which I didn't go for, I was called retard at least a dozen times by PPC people. It doesn't work. The whole bullying thing doesn't work up here. So I don't know. I mean, I kind of feel sympathy for Poilievre because it's a rock and a hard place kind of situation. I'm not justifying. I'm just saying, I mean, we're not in his shoes. We're not making those decisions. And right now, with 4 polls reporting, which isn't really significant, he is losing his riding. So there's a scenario, too. The CPC and the Bloc win enough seats between them to govern, but the leader doesn't win his seat. This parliament could actually come out being far more hung than any we've seen in recent times. Unless the Liberals and the Bloc govern together. And then in that case, it might be able to have some stability for at least a time. But it's hard to imagine. I mean, with the Bloc coming out and saying Canada is a fake country. How does that work? How does the Prime Minister work with the party that says we're a fake country? Let's check in my own hometown, my stomping grounds. Wow, Philip Lawrence is barely hanging on. See, I told people back east, I'm just like, you don't understand how left it's becoming in Northumberland and how effective the anti-Trump rhetoric actually is. There's a lot of Toronto living in that riding now. That's why I'm not there anymore. It's not the place I grew up in. Like, it's pretty bad when you go to a different province that you've never set foot in before. And from day one, it felt like I was coming home. Well, Bernier's climbing. He's got 5.7 now. You could pull out the squeaker. He's just got to get a few more there. The Bloc is so weak. Like, look at Montreal. It's like nothing changed in Montreal. Look at Quebec. What? I don't understand Quebec anymore. This is weird. How many, there's a significant number of polls closed. Let's go check on Burnaby again. Liberals still in the lead by 27. Yeah, I mean, we got to, you see, you're getting close there that they could govern with the NDP again. Like, we got to kind of hope it settles below that threshold. You see how the popular vote's tightening too, right? $17 Liberal seats more in Quebec than 2021. That's, again, I mean, it could all just be down to the anti-American rhetoric. Like, that's what people need to understand about the big red machine. It's very good at sniffing out trends. They might suck at governing, but they're really good at manipulation. They're the best Machiavellians in the entire country. And if they understood that the defining thing in people's minds, whether you and I agree with it or not, was Donald Trump, then it could explain every single thing that you're seeing here without, and of course there's edge cases, like I said, with shenanigans and fraud and all these potential irregularities. I'm not trying to diminish that, but the meat and potatoes of the election results that you're seeing, the vast majority of it could literally just be down to the effective messaging about Donald Trump. Because he's such a troll. And he talks funny. And it's so superficial the way the left judges the man. They don't go into detail. They superficially judge him based on his actions and based on how he sounds. And if people are superficial, like I described before, where their news media is just 15 minutes a day scrolling through their Google News app, that goes a long way to explaining what we're seeing. We're all imprisoned to the mental midgets who either have no will to go deep or have no time to go deep. I think it's mainly they have no will to go deep. They want to feel like they know things. They want to signal that they know everything, but they don't want to make the time and they don't want to take the time. They want to be seen as smart, but they don't want to take the time to be smart. And what good does being smart do anyway? For all the time I read and do things and I'm still stuck here voting alongside the most slavish devotee to CBC. Trump and Carney are in bed together. It could very well be. Trump sunk Canada. I regret supporting him in the past decade. I think, I got to push back on that a little bit, Sally, because this country was sunk by our politicians over decades. They've been gutting Canada and selling it out all the way along. This is nothing new. Trump might just be the person who put the bow on it because it's to his advantage. He's looking out for his national interest. He's looking out for his interests. And of course, he's willing to manipulate Canadian politics if it benefits him. Make no mistake, whether there's high levels of coordination or not, he wanted Mark Carney. That is clear as day to me. What I'm going to do is I'm just going to take a leak. And I'm just going to leave the numbers on the screen while I do so, and I will be right back. And we're back. how's everybody doing? We feeling positive? I mean, look at that. The Conservatives and the Bloc are now, there it is. So between them, they now have the ability to govern if they want to. The Bloc is going to be the balance of power in Canada. If these numbers held right here, it's up to the Bloc Quebecois who they're going to work with. So Mark could try to make a deal with them first. They're incumbent, and they won the election. But the Bloc can just say no, and then they can try and work with the Conservatives to form a coalition. That can happen. Yard Prep says, I'm ready to denounce citizenship and become a sovereign citizen of the prairie. To become sovereign citizens of the prairies. I wouldn't go that far yet. We got to make sure that the government's on board before we just go and do that. We're certainly going to have to work on it. What is weird is that I'd rather Blanchett control the balance of power over Jackmeat. Yeah, me too. It'll be really entertaining. Frank, can you explain the 4 regions of Canada again? Sure. Well, we're all sitting here depressed. Why not? So when I talked about the 4 regions of Canada, I grouped together the Atlantic provinces, which are these, together. And then Quebec was its own thing. Ontario was its own thing. And then I lumped the prairies and BC together, all into one big thing. Now, you can divide it even further, if you like. What I was trying to say in that video is that if you were considering the theoretical possibility of statehood, my argument is that one state does not work because, first off, it's just it doesn't fit with how the United States is, and second of all, it's not realistic. It's not realistic to hope to keep the Union together in an expanded state if you only include one state for Canada. Quebec would need their own, whether as a territory or as a state. Ontario is its own gong show. It would need its own. And at the very least, Western Canada would have to be together in one unit. And I think the Atlantic provinces are their own unit too. They're the Maritimes. And I think if you broke Canada down into 4 regions like that, you would have a much greater chance of successfully integrating into the Union. And I was just making that as a practical argument. It's 4 states. Each state would get 2 Senate seats, which would increase the chamber in the United States. They have 100 Senate seats now. It would be 108. It's fairly representative. There's aspects of Congress to consider and all this other stuff. And I just thought it's, as a working proposal for something that could realistically work, if you were in a situation you were incorporating into the United States, that's how that would be the starting platform. And of course, everybody's going to have their own number, and that's fine because we're all spitballing hypothetically here anyway. But so what do we got here? So like the media calls this a liberal government. What are we at? An hour and a half ago? Like I don't even. That call came out real quick after polls closed. Personally, I see that as irresponsible. I see that as the media with their fingers on the scales yet again. That's just me, though. I mean, I think the evidence suggests we know the media has their fingers on the scales. They've been propagandizing this entire election. It's time to have some illegal Kentucky bourbon. Should actually go looking around to see if there's any on the shelves. I'm not going to buy any. I can't afford this stuff right now. But I just got better things to do with money than buying bourbon. Luckily, I've got a great big cupboard full of it, so it's not that great big. There's like 10 bottles up there of different things, and I don't drink that much. But I digress. What do we got here? It's not the end of the world, folks. Liberals want fear. Be positive. Yep. Because either way, even if they get their majority government, we know what we got to do. And it's a little bit more depressing for the people who live out east in Ontario or the Maritimes. Like, I don't know what to tell you because you're outnumbered. You're outgunned by the left. They've got the masses. There's millions of you stranded there. You got good hearts. You got good minds. And you're outnumbered. And it sucks. which is why I say it might be time to consider voting with your feet. But only you can answer that question. Everybody's got different circumstances. I can't sit here and just issue a blanket statement. You got to move now. Like, I'm not that guy. Because you could move and it could be a disaster for you because of your circumstances. But if this is the road we're going to go down, you might want to consider getting on the winning team. Because, like, even if the West isn't successful and we don't end up being the winning team, this is the hill I'm dying on. You know, I've often come back to this idea that if you don't have something you're willing to die for, you've never really been alive. And I think Western Canada is a good hill to make your stand on. Time to go south, my future American friends. But, you know, here's the scenario. What happens? You go south. 3.5 years, the Democrats are back in office. I don't see that as likely, by the way. I think if elections are fair and they have voter ID down there and Trump is moderately successful, I'm not sure the Democrats get back in office next time. They're too radical still. They haven't learned anything. They haven't toned down. They haven't come back to the center yet. They need a unifying leader that's reasonable, that isn't a far-left lunatic. When they get that, they will successfully challenge the Republicans and they may win back. But they'll have to be a different party when they do it, and they're not there yet. They're still just radicals. So I don't think they can defeat the Republicans. I think the Republicans will get stronger in the midterms now. A lot can change in the next year and a half. Like, we got a ways to go to get there. There's a trade war to prosecute. There's a trade war with China. There's this business with us. There's all the business with Europe. Like I said when Trump was running for president, that he was kind of a Hail Mary pass. Like, you couldn't go for Harris. You had to go for Trump, and you had to hope it worked out. But there was always a chance that it wouldn't work out. It's kind of the same deal with Poilievre. I mean, you could have elected him to a government, and he might not have done anything for you. But he was still a better shot than Carney, and he was the only one positioned to defeat Carney. And as this is shaken out, I mean, right there, the Bloc and Conservatives together, they got 174. Right now, the Liberals and the NDP and the Greens together cannot form a coalition. Bloc is going to be the power center. And you look at those, something to think about, folks. The debates that just happened, the English and the French. Every time Pierre talked, that dog, Singh, the attack dog, would get his marching orders with a glance from Carney. I've seen it happen over and over again, where Carney would just look over at him and he'd just start barking. Well, the same thing happened with Blanchett, but it wasn't open coordination, and it wasn't open interruption. Blanchett didn't say a damn thing negative about Poilievre that entire 2 debates. Nothing that I remember. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe there was 1 or 2 things in there. But compared to Singh, who only liked to attack the Conservative Party, he only interrupted Pierre, he didn't interrupt Carney. I think that tells you that the Bloc sees their future is better served with the Conservatives versus the Liberals. And they are beautifully able to exercise their power. You can hate them all you want. We can discuss the sins of Quebec all day. But the fact is, they represent themselves very well. And in this case, they're not going to be afraid. They don't care what the rest of Canada thinks. They care about what Quebec thinks. And if they want to throw a monkey wrench into Carney and reach across the aisle to form a government with the Conservatives, they can do that. They can do that. This whole thing is shaking out like a hung parliament. Like, I used to say that a minority government was the best government because nothing happens. Used to be true. The problem is, since the Liberals came along and the NDP came along, they have mastered the art of coalition government, and they've mastered the art of governing by order and council. So now minority governments aren't the boring things that they used to be. Now minority governments are just as much a cause of concern as majority governments are. So I've never been in favor of them. Or not never. I'm no longer in favor of minority governments like I used to be, because things change and things evolve over time, and you have to constantly update your worldview or you end up being a relic. This might be a really good minority government. The fact is, There's only 4 seats separating them. Why did the media call this? They just reveal themselves ever more as the partisan hacks. Every single one of them actually are. How's Jag doing? Yeah, let's go check stuff. I'm supposed to be guiding you through this election. It's only 8 polls, still down by 31. Who's he down to, though? Oh, Singh's wrecked. How many polls we got? We got 8. That's not enough. It's not enough, but it's looking bad for Singh. It's either going to be the Conservatives or the Liberals. Great news. Great news to see the end of him. And maybe the end of the NDP, because I feel sorry, again, for the poor people. There are some really good, motivated NDP people who are like genuinely good people. I've known a couple of them over time. Businessmen, they just, for whatever reason, they were loyal to Jack Layton and the NDP under him. The party that they worked so hard to build. I used to know a guy, he ran for the NDP 5 times. Every single election, he gained more and more support. Every election. And then Singh came along and tanked all of his prospects. And he was heartbroken. There are some people, whether I agree with them or not, who believe in that party with good intentions. And Singh has left that party broke, both physically broken, financially broken, and soon completely rudderless. And it sucks. It sucks for those people who put their heart and soul into it. Oh, here we go. We got to check out... what do we got here? Elizabeth May coming out strong with 35 polls. That's significant. Folks, we might be stuck with Elizabeth May in Parliament again. Oh, it's great. It's entertaining as we watch the whole thing burn. You can find entertainment and moments of levity in the whole process. What do we got? Help me, what's happening? Sally Ann says. I don't know. It could be worse. It could be worse. Like right now, the Liberals can't form a government without the Bloc. You got to hope it stays that way. Rita says, screaming, save your voice. It's not worth losing your voice over politics. Shar says, let's fucking go. I'm not sure what you're so happy about. Maybe you can tell me. Waste Paper Jack. Layton was the best they ever did. Whether you like him or not, he was the best they ever did. He took them to official opposition status. And if he hadn't have died from rapidly metastasizing cancer out of nowhere, he might have actually became prime minister one day. But that's a timeline we'll never live. What about Carlton? Let's go check Carlton. That's still not look. Oh my God. It's only 8 polls in. But Fanjoy's ahead by 900. Am I in the right? I am in the right spot. What? I mean, that's that would be bad. So the Conservatives have enough seats to actually form a government with the Bloc after negotiations fail with the Liberals. And I'm making a lot of assumptions here. I'm not telling you what's going to happen. I'm telling you possibilities. But they don't have their leader with a seat. How does Poilievre stay on as Conservative Party leader without a seat? He's been elected in Carlton for how many years? If he gets turfed, that's real bad news for the Conservative Party. Because I don't know how they hold on to him. And I don't know where they go without him. He's the best they've got. He's the best speaker. He's the most articulate. Some would argue he should have been more himself on the campaign trail, and that's fine. But where do they go from there? They've already tried the moderate thing, like the extreme moderate thing with Sheeran O'Toole. That didn't work. So he went a little bit more edgy, especially when he was running for leader. Seemed to work for a while. But maybe it's an impossible task, which brings us back to the whole provincial separation thing. If so much of this country that holds the weight of the power of the electorate in their hands is completely hypnotized and brainwashed about Donald Trump and other things, maybe it's impossible for the Conservatives to actually win a government in Canada, which is just another reason why we got to try and go. We got to try and get out. What else is there to do? I mean, that was going to be the conversation that we were all going to be having, even if Poilievre won anyway. It would just take longer to have. But if you're a believer in the Federation and you're a believer in Canada, you got to hope that the Liberal NDP and Green numbers don't coalesce into that magical 172. You got to hope that they have to govern through the Bloc, because we might find ourselves back at election time. Wow, but this is bad. Oh my God, there's 10 polls in now, and the lead's up to 1,400 votes. How can that be even real? Did you see the size of the ballots in those ridings, or in that riding? Like 100 candidates on it? This is the type of shenanigans that have been going on against Poilievre. All of the forces, the combined weight of the media, the bureaucracy, everything we've talked about on this channel combined to beat this guy. Huge, initiative to get people on the ballot to confuse the vote. Every power structure in the world came together to defeat this guy. And people say he's the same. He's clearly not the same, because there was too much effort undermining him. Do you understand that? I don't know how great a leader he would be. I don't know how great a guy he is. But there's certainly a concerted effort and interest by the richest, most vile players in the world of politics to undermine every prospect he had for winning. To me, that's enough. When all the bad guys unite to defeat one person, that's enough. It's the same with many other politicians in the world. Man, that's crazy, though. We'll have to see how it goes as the night goes on. Let's check in with Max. They've called it. 5.9%. I don't think he's going to make it. Let's go back to Burnaby. Burnaby's gone conservative now by 8 votes. Razor-thin margins, but the fact is Jag is way behind. I don't think he recovers. 12 polls is, I guess it's starting to get statistically significant depending on where the polls are, but I think you can safely say Jag's gone tonight. But man, Poilievre's going to be gone too. I did not have that on my bingo card. Calgary showing up. Still early for some of these ridings too. You could see things change. 44 votes in Edmonton Center with 137 polls still to come in. That can change, right? I don't understand what's going on in the North. Actually, I keep saying I don't understand. I do understand. I understand all of this. I just can't believe it. What I'm trying to express is exasperation. But then I say I can't, how do you even express, I guess exasperation is the right word, because I do understand it, and because I understand it, I can believe it, but I'm still perplexed. Not perplexed. Still shocked. Still in a state of shock by it. Not even shock. Disappointment? Is that the word I'm looking for? Has anybody got an expanded vocabulary? You can help me describe what it is I'm feeling? Frank, you guys got a Saskatchewan sovereignty organization akin to Alberta Prosperity Project. Prairie sovereignty, bud. I'm with you, Yard Man. I'm with you. I think there is some infrastructure here from what I've looked into. I don't think it's specifically bent towards sovereignty yet. So we're going to have to do a little bit of nudging starting tomorrow. Q get to work? I don't know. I don't think Q's coming to save us. Smoke some of that famous Northern Bud and pour a drink. Not while I'm on stream. I'll have a drink with you, though. Someone just said, Frank! I don't know what I'm supposed to do with that. I'm here, though. Disbelief. Cooked. I don't know if disbelief's the right word. Bewilderment is the word you're looking for. Yes, that comes much closer. I am bewildered. That's great. Thank you. First Sergeant Grundy, is that what that means, sir? Are you a first sergeant? Slow count means cheating. There's been cheating going on since Trudeau gave the PM-ship away to Carney. Well, if you accept at face value that fraud that they went through called a Liberal Party election, I got oceanfront property in Saskatchewan for sale. There's nothing about that was proper. There's nothing about the last 4 or 5 months that's been proper. These are exceptional times, which is why I keep talking about how when the historic moment arrives, things happen in ways and faster than people are prepared for. They might be waving around their laws and their treaties or anything else, and none of that matters anymore because change is upon you. If people read history books, they'd understand that. Discombobulated. That's another good word, Bronze Snake. I like that. I'm bewildered and discombobulated. Perfect. Pierre lost his seat? Not yet. But he's on his way to it. We'll see. It's only 10 polls. We'll see. But he's losing by 1,400 votes, and there's only 10 polls in. How's that even possible? That's a lot. Frank, stop feeling dejected. Am I dejected? I don't think I'm dejected because I've been thinking about both outcomes this entire time. And neither of them excited me too much. Like, I wasn't overly excited about a conservative majority, even though it's what I was aiming for. Because these are the choices, these are the options that we have. And the Greens are leading in 2 places now. $10 and $12. Math. They still need 3. They would need 3 to form a coalition with the Liberals. Or the Bloc. So that's got to be Guelph. Yeah. No, it's Kitchener Center. What's happening in Guelph? Mike Maurice leads by 58 votes. What? I know people who live there. How can politics be so crazy? Okay, that makes a little more sense that the Conservatives are second. That makes a little bit more sense to me. Man, I hope they can pick it up. We don't need 2 Green MPs. Could argue we don't need 1, but we might be getting it anyway. The Western provinces would be crazy to stay in Canada. War is coming. Balkanization never happens peacefully. Very true. Especially when balkanization happens in countries that have ethnically diverse populations with diverse religious opinions and cultures. The first thing that happens when society falls apart is we default to our preference groups, which are those people who look like us, sound like us, and worship like us. When there's no economy and there's no food and there's crisis, that's what you do. You revert to the basics and all these complex structures of cultural mosaics and everything else that our politicians have been so proud to create in the good times don't mean shit in the bad times. Pardon my French. And you can see the history of the world is replete with examples of that exact process playing out from Rome all the way forward to Bosnia and Herzegovina, Serbia, Rwanda, Libya, Syria, Iraq, everywhere. Yep. If you remove the economic stability, everybody subdivides back into their preference groups. Especially in this country where you rob everybody of a core identity in the first place. So up until this whole Team Canada thing broke out, nationalism was taboo. It was a bad idea. The Canadian flag was, if you displayed a Canadian flag, it was a sign that you might be a risk to national security. And then they decided it was useful for their political purposes, and they brought it all back. But underneath it all, the culture is eroding and disappearing. The very thing that made Canada, it's going by the wayside. So, enter into that equation economic crisis and destitution. I think you might want to be in a region where people have been living together for a long time that's got fairly stable demographics. Anywhere there's lots of baby bumps and people who speak your language. It's a good place to be in a crisis. Is there still hope, chat? Well, I'll let chat deal with that. True North couldn't get into Carney event, but media from all over the world there, election interference. There's no respect for the independent media, so that's just how it is in Canada. They don't count. 154 to 152 on CTV. Elections Canada is still stuck at 350. This is bad. How are people supposed to have faith in this? This is a text-based website. There's nothing complicated going on here except an updating count. And it hasn't loaded for us in what, an hour and a half? We haven't been able to get this thing to load? Oh, it makes you sick. Ugh. This is what you live in. It's like a kangaroo country. Where's their map? Yeah, they're showing 160 to 148 here. So I don't know what the whole notion of a different set of numbers. I don't know what that was all about. And now they're in majority territory with the New Democrats and the Greens. Wow. And I mean, you might as well call it a majority because that's what coalitions have become in this country. 4 years under the NDP and the Liberals could equal another 4 years under the NDP and the Liberals just with a new leader. So let's check back in with Singh. He's wrecked. Max wrecked. He's out. Guaranteed. He's not. I'm calling that seat right now for not Jagmeet Singh. I don't even care who wins it. It's not going to be him. So the NDP is going to have to go through a process at the same time as they might hold the keys to power. What a gong show of an election. How's Pierre doing? He's behind by 1,800 now. He's going to lose his seat, folks. He's going to lose his seat. The level of coordination to undermine the CPC, and people just bought it. It's only 20 polls, but it's 1,700 votes, and I guess it depends on where those polls are coming in from, but I don't know, folks. It's not looking good to me. Maybe there's something I don't know in the deep data on that in that riding, but that doesn't look good. Let's check in on old Max. See how he's doing. No, he fell down by 0.2. Has he given his concession speech yet? Does anybody know? Has Max gone live anywhere? Because I know he didn't campaign there, so I don't even know where he'd be speaking from if he did. Why am I asking? Let's see. What do we got? Time for Wexit. This country is effed. I'm so angry. That's from the private chat. 15 of my Canadian friends to watch your live tonight. Sub to jail. Hey Ashley, are you still there? You still watching? Shoot me a text on X if you still are. This has been going on for a while. Why am I here? I'm looking for Bernier. Will I be allowed to look at him? I'm blocked. Let's see. Can I even see his page? Will they let me see his page?
To debate our ideas, and we won't compromise.
Can you guys even hear that?
And I want also
So you know what I'm doing.
Our candidates, our volunteers, and the thousands of Canadians who supported us tonight.
Who gave us all their money so that I could spend it campaigning in the United States. Joe Biden congratulates Prime Minister Mark Carney and the Liberal Party on their success in Canada's election. I'm confident Mark will be a strong leader for the fundamental values and interests Canadians and Americans share. I wonder who wrote that for Joe. Oh, man. Yeah. Again, you know, there isn't much more to say except you got to hope that these numbers, when they're finalized, the math adds up to a not easy path to forming a government for the Liberals, that they have to go through the Bloc. That's probably the best bet if you're a committed federalist. I'm not sure that that's how I can describe myself at this point. I mean, I said if Carney win, I knew what I was going to do, and I wasn't kidding. I'm pretty certain I know where I'm going with my next moves. Whether it'll amount to anything, I don't know. I'm just one guy. Just one guy with a camera and some people I can talk to. This country is so deeply screwed up and broken. Will conservatives ever win again? Patricia, that's a good question. In this nation, the way that it is, it's hard to imagine a path for them. Think about the charade that we've just witnessed. Think about the parachuting of Mark Carney in from outside the country. Hasn't lived here for 10 years. Think about the charade of the Liberal Party election, the installation of Mark Carney as Prime Minister, the charade of him sitting down behind a desk and signing executive orders, something we don't even have here in Canada. Think about the charade of this man coming in and avoiding financial disclosures by very careful scheduling of the Liberal leadership race and the election. He has been opaque. He hasn't told us all the things that we're entitled to know. He's ran 2 central banks. I mean, what more do you want? The whole thing's a farce. And he just won the election. You're asking, is there a path? I don't know, because this is what we do. This is the result that we collectively create. This is Canada. And I think the more appropriate question is if this is Canada, then what are we? Are we Canadian anymore? Or are we going to be moving towards something else? Because this doesn't represent us. This doesn't represent me. I moved 2,000 kilometers away from this, and I don't feel like I'm far enough away. I've got to look to my premiers to have my back now, 100%, because I may not even be able to speak once this man forms a government and censors us out of existence. His Emergencies Act, all the things that he promised us, this farce. And a good chunk of Canada bought it. So you ask if there's a path? If there was ever a path, this was the one. And for those who think it's because Pierre Poilievre didn't lead strong enough, you got it wrong. It's not that he didn't campaign far enough to the right. It's the nature of the country. If campaigning to the right worked, Max wouldn't be giving a concession speech. Where are they even at? I can't find out where they're at because Elections Canada is broken and nobody else is tracking them. I would love to know where they're at nationally. When this thing broke, they were at 0.8%. They're absolutely irrelevant. All the people who are claiming they're moving the, stretching the Overton window, they're irrelevant. Nobody cares. Outside the PPC bubble, the PPC doesn't matter. They're annoying, and I stick with it, and I talk about it during elections. You probably won't hear me mention the PPC anymore once this is all done. I have an obligation because I helped create it, instrumentally helped create it in the very beginning. I feel an obligation to track it throughout its life cycle. A lot of my audience doesn't like it. I can't say I don't care because I do care what you guys feel, but I have a sense of duty and obligation that I fulfill. At the end of the day, I don't answer to you. I answer to me, and I answer to the Lord above. And that's who I have to face. It's just like this whole thing about monetization and turning the channel on and getting super chats going and doing the whole thing. Everybody wants me to do that. And I understand why. And I think maybe you're all right. But I hesitate for my own reasons. Maybe that's foolish. But yeah, I don't know. Look at this. Now there's enough here at the moment that the Liberals and the NDP could form a government by themselves. We could just carry on with what we were doing, but now Mark Carney has legitimacy. And we're going to learn more about Carney in the wake of the election. Maybe the Canadian public will learn. Maybe they won't. Maybe the media won't even bother to tell the story. Most of the people who are doing the voting in this election aren't listening to any of us anyway. Not yet. Our time is coming if we're allowed to flower. If the podcasting community and the independent news media is allowed to flower in this country and allowed to prosper, then our day will come. That's why they want to snuff us out. Time moves forward. The people holding this country back will not be able to hold the country back for much longer. The people who are misinformed won't be around. A new paradigm's coming if it's allowed to come, and then maybe we can change things. But right now this is pretty bleak stuff. Just is what it is. Back to chat. Yeah, you will be snuffed soon. I don't think it's going to come to that, but I mean, who knows? Conservatives have turned into Trumpsters. Oh, here we go. We got my dog's butler. You're so wrong. That whole notion, conservatives turning into Trumpsters, is so knuckle-dragging stupid. I don't want to insult anybody, but it's so dumb. It's so low information. How in the nine hells, in all the levels of Dante's Inferno, how could you come to that conclusion? It's simply demonstrably not true. You people should be worried more about what Mark Carney's going to give to Trump, not what Poilievre would have done for him. You're being deluded. You're being deceived. You're being dragged along through a narrative. Conservatives are Trumpsters. In Canada, are you kidding me? Maple Mag is not a thing. Western separatism is. 51st staters who might want to break up and go make a better deal with the United States, that's something. But for all the conservative voters in the East and in Quebec, at the very least, the vast majority maybe respect America, but they sure as hell aren't Trumpsters. And what are you doing using the word Trumpster anyway? Is this the schoolyard? Like, are we all 5 years old trying to sound clever? And this is the issue. You see how fired up it gets me? This type of simplistic, stupid, knuckle-dragging thinking is exactly what gets us in this problem because the big red machine knows it works. These labels, this low IQ nonsense turns into election results, and they know it. And it pops up in the chat. God help us. When they start to get hurt by Carney's actions, they will learn all too late. They will have buyer's remorse. Soon you will not be allowed to speak. I fear that outcome. I just lost the chat. Dude's a CBC bot. Well, I don't care what it is. It disgusts me. It disgusts me. Trumpsters. Drumpf. I mean, I don't even like it when conservatives do it. They call Trudeau True Dumb and I don't know, all the other True Tard and every other nickname. I mean, I guess they're kind of funny and tongue-in-cheek, but it doesn't do anything. It doesn't help anything. You got to be... Free speech is a wonderful thing. But if free speech is not combined with self-discipline, it is worthless. Free speech is nothing in the mouth of the profane. It's everything in the mouth of the shrewd. Like you gotta pick how you use it. Alberta separatist right here. Well, you're welcome here, Jerky Jones. I like jerky. At Twitchy-faced method, Christy Freeland coined that phrase. Preach, brother, 100%. No, what is a Trumpster? I don't know. Ask that individual, that wonderful Canadian in the chat, that CBC bot. Exactly, it's knuckle dragging, low info propaganda. It totally is. Like it's just so stupid, but it works. It works. It's effective. It's sophisticated political strategy. That's what passes for sophisticated political strategy in this country, is getting everybody to hate a guy with a spray tan. God. Pierre lost his seat. Is it official now? Is it official that he lost his seat? Where the heck's Ottawa? Not yet. It is not official. And the lead is shrinking. It's down 300 since we last checked with, what was it, I think we got another 20 polls in. It's certainly, he hasn't lost it yet, folks. And you don't know how, like, there could be, I mean, I can't call up, I don't want to call up Google Earth right now to examine this. But I mean, there's probably, it's a bigger riding, so there's going to be more densely populated areas of that riding that maybe are more liberal. I don't know. It could be segmented. Maybe the rural ridings are slower to come in. Maybe that accounts for what we're seeing. We'll just have to wait and see. Do we even want to go check on Singh anymore? Like, we know he's done. Who cares who wins? We know he's gone. So at least we got that going. The Liberals are going to pick it up. Just insane. Like, how do you go from voting for Jagmeet Singh, the guy who enabled the Liberals for 4 years, and the NDP is super angry that he did, so they're just like, we're going to vote Liberal now. But it's not even that. It's because the Orange Man is bad. They got to stop the Orange Man. So Singh's leadership is terrible, and they don't like the Liberals, but they got to vote for the Liberals because Mark Carney is going to, he's the crusader that's going to save us from that evil, wretched Donald Trump. Isn't it? It's just so absurd, bewildering, discombobulating. Alberta and Saskatchewan will definitely be leaving this newly created shithole. Man, that felt good to say. We need serious people. Things are going to get dire. We do. We need very serious people. Careful people. I know some of them. And after today, those careful people are going to have careful plans. And I hope they bear fruit. I could share the CBC News until he was elected. Now I cannot share anymore. Authority ultimately comes from those who control most men. Bankers take money. That's their forte. They don't take it, Brad. They don't take it. They create it out of thin air. And then they give it to you at interest. And you have to pay it back with your real money, your real dollars. Yes, Frank, you nailed it. Orange Man bad. That really does seem what this all comes down to. I mean, sure, there could be fraud. There could be other stuff going on. But honestly and truly, I think this is the Canadian public. I think this is collectively what we're capable of. This is like, I don't think you need a big, broad conspiracy to explain what we're seeing on the screen. It seems fairly clear to me. And right now, the Liberals are one seat shy with the New Democrats and the Greens from forming an actual coalition with them. The Bloc remains the best bet. The Conservatives with the Bloc could form a government. It's not what I wanted. I wanted clarity one way or another, and what we're going to end up with is a hung parliament. I'm going to have to really ponder that tonight a little bit to try and discern the implications of that, because honestly, I haven't put any thought into this. I didn't. It's like looking at a lost game of Risk or a game of chess you're trying to salvage. Like, it's because it creates confusion, right? So you want clarity for the provincial governments. You want clarity so that you can move forward with the polity of Canada. And this just screams delay. This just screams more talking and more compromises and more coalition building and more horse shit. It's not the clarity that I was looking for. Singh's deal with the Liberals to save his own pension is one of the reasons why we are here in the first place. That's how fragile the stupid Canadian political system is. It's something else. That's another thing that Poilievre said during the campaign that it really triggered me was he's just like the Westminster system, which is the envy of the world. And I was like, gag me, man. Why do you have to do that? You can be patriotic. And you can have a patriotic message without blowing smoke about how great our system is. Our system sucks. Not because it delivered results that many aren't happy with, because that happens every election. It doesn't matter who wins, someone's not happy. It's because you only get one vote for one house. Everybody that controls your life is appointed. You don't vote for any of them. It's inherently designed to be unfair to the smaller provinces. It's inherently designed to be unfair to the western provinces. The Westminster system sucks. We still have a king. You know, when I made that video doing a side-by-side comparison of the United States and citizens' rights down there with Canadian rights up here, I'm like, how do people not get it? The American citizen is far better off than a Canadian citizen. And sure, there's a lot of problems in the United States. They got all the same problems we've got down there. But they have a government now proactively trying to solve some of them, for one thing. And for another, if a citizen wants to deploy their rights down there, they still can. There's still opportunity. People make choices all day, every day to smoke meth or drop fentanyl and ruin their lives. That's their choice. They should be allowed to be mired in the consequences of their decisions. Nobody should be enabling them, handing them drugs, handing them money, doing all these things, but I digress. They got all the same problems, but their citizens are far more empowered than we are. It's not even close. It's not even close. They have such a superior governing system with the Republic. Has its problems, has its corruptions, but it is a hell of a lot better than the Westminster system, that's for sure. Calling Canada a shithole. I apologize for swearing. I really do try to not swear on stream or in my videos. I work very hard at that. I don't swear around my kids either, and I try to avoid it around my wife, but when it's just the two of us, it happens. I want property rights. You radical. You scumbag. You Trumpster. How dare you want property rights? Don't you know that somebody else might need what you have more than you? How could you be so selfish? This is Canada. We don't do property rights here, boyo. Of course, I'm just kidding. Actually have property rights. Yeah, they actually have property rights. That's right, Regan. Congratulations, Canadian, on a wonderful election result, says John Martin. I don't know if that's sarcasm or that's just liberal trolling at this point, but whatever. Whatever, dude. Get ready for another liberal emergency. Yeah, here we go. He said it. He promised it. And, well, I don't know if he'll be able to deliver it with the seat count the way that it is. He may not be able to go full pedal to the floor. This might slow him down. Depends on how this works out, how this all settles. But without a majority, it might not be pedal to the floor. without the ability to govern with the New Democrats, like needing to reach to the Bloc will put a check on it, because what he wants to do will be bad for Quebec's sovereignty. All the talk about lowering trade barriers between the provinces, that threatens Quebec. Stitching the country together with pipelines and all this other, even though that's not on the table with Carney, let's pretend it is, doesn't benefit Quebec's plan to keep Canada divided. You can love it, you can hate it, but right now, the Bloc is going to be the principal check on Carney if these numbers hold out, because they still can potentially govern with the Conservative Party. They can bring down the government. We could be doing an election again in 2 months. So this, if it stays this way, this might be an interesting minority. Hopefully it's quick. Canada screwed with another Liberal turn. My 9-month-old is going to be a SUF. I think you mean surf. Don't think that way, man. Don't think that way. Raise them with the values. The one constant in life and history is change. We live in a moment of profound change. I personally don't think this lasts. I don't think the World Economic Forum, United Nations urge that runs behind Mark Carney is successful in the end. I could be wrong, but I think a multipolar world will require a resurgence of nationalism at the very least. And it might create new nationalist movements like Western separatism. So don't give up hope yet, mate. And if you're a good parent, your kid's in good hands. They're already way ahead of the game. So don't be too upset. Climate change mandates coming to a city near you, plus the potential for a home equity tax. Like, it's a second property tax? They got to get into that too? So they got to start taxing illiquid assets? How about we just do capital gains taxes on unrealized gains? I mean, screw it. Just because you didn't sell something and turn it into cash doesn't mean it's not worth anything. So if you're holding $10,000 in stock or gold, well, the government wants your capital gains. You know how stupid that is? The whole notion of taxes on unrealized gains. So at the end of the year, say you bought Apple stock for $100. At the end of the year, it's $150, but you didn't sell it, so you didn't actually net that gain, but you still got to report it for taxation. So you pay tax on that $50. Another year goes by, and you got to file again, but now Apple stock is down to $100. So now you got to file a separate thing and claim a capital loss. Do you know how stupid and monumentally foolish that is? Such a waste of time. Again, I find myself feeling sorry for accountants and the Canada Revenue Agency. I never thought I'd say that a day in my life, but man, the ideas that these government people come up with does nothing but create work for paper people. Taxes on your equity, taxes on unrealized capital gains. They're not even just coming for your money now. They're coming for money that you haven't even got your hands on yet. Money that's not even money. They're coming for value. He writes a book entitled Values. I think we know what he meant. We dodged a nuke with, well, I lost it. Chat just went crazy again. I smell a civil war coming. I don't see it. I don't see a civil war coming. I think the solutions will be political. I don't think we're in a situation like that yet. I don't think we have the... I think you should be careful throwing that around, because you'll give fuel to this man. And you'll give fuel to his efforts to declare emergencies unending and militarize society against you. Especially if you're throwing that word around and there actually isn't any real chance of civil war or civil insurrection. So it might feel good to say, to release that, but where's the factual basis? Where's the militias? Hell, man. We're not even going to have any private guns by the time we're done. We don't have private guns now. The government just writes it on a piece of paper, an order in council, and boom, it's not your property anymore. It's prohibited. I don't see it. I don't think there's enough fighting spirit in this country. That one went down a little wrong. Carney wants a J6. He'd love it. He'd love the opportunity, and you don't want to give it to him. Guns are a U.S. thing, not Canadian. That is not true at all. We have very high gun ownership per gun owner. There are millions upon millions of guns in private hands in Canada, and they're not killing anybody. The legal ones are not killing anybody. They're not doing any of the violence. There's also hundreds of thousands of illegal handguns that are doing all the killing that the laws the government is passing will do nothing about. Canada has a lot of guns in private hands, far more than people imagine. Does anybody remember Oka? The whole Oka, what was it, building a golf course on a native cemetery? And all of a sudden, all those natives were blockading streets and they had AK-47s? Where do you think those AKs went? They're still out there. All those SKSs, they're still out there. The reason the government won't ban SKSs is because that's the reserves have tons of them. But alongside that, there's millions of Canadians who own them too, and they make a perfectly effective hunting rifle. Yeah, I don't see a civil war, and I think you want to be careful talking about it because these guys are looking for that fuel right now. They want an excuse, man. And you don't want to be the one that gives it to them. Like, look what they did with the Freedom Convoy. Look what they did with that. A perfectly peaceful assembly with bouncy castles. No crime. Now, they might have honked horns. More than maybe they needed to. They could have at least shut up for the night. But whatever. Look at the times we were living in. The charter was suspended. People were reacting. They were making a lot of noise. There's a proportional relationship between the amount of noise they made and the lack of government listening to them. So it's pretty easy to understand the whole thing. And look at what they did with it. There wasn't a single gun there. You don't want to give them an excuse. It's close between the cons and liberals. Yeah, where are we at? Is it settling? Like, I mean, how are the... I guess the polls are coming in. Jag's out. Elizabeth May has got it again. Unreal. Looks like Calgary's gone completely blue. You still got this Edmonton issue, but whatever. That's Edmonton for you. Hoback's back in. Let's see what's happening in Carlton. The lead is shrinking. It's down 500 since, so there was 20 polls and they had an 1,800 point lead. Now there's 60 polls in and it's 1,300. So if that trend continues, Poilievre might actually hold his seat. It's probably going to take all night to figure that one out. Maxime still is just, you just can't manage to make that comeback. Shucks. Who could have seen that coming when you don't do any door knocking in your own riding and you just spend all your time in the United States? Who would have thought that nobody would elect that here in Canada, considering the environment, considering everything we've learned tonight and everything we've learned over the last 4 months about the way the Canadian mind works? If indeed you want to argue that it works at all. Who would have thought that strategy wouldn't work? Because that strategy wasn't meant to work. The PPC's never been... The only time it was almost viable was at the very beginning, and since then, they torpedo its viability every chance they get. Because it ain't about that. It's the purple piggy bank. Yeah, this isn't... I don't know. If you're a conservative fan, this isn't the worst result. The most likely outcome is we're back, if this holds, we're back having an election sometime soon. But it could be worse. Hi, you think they need an excuse? They have been stripping us for 10 years already, no excuse needed. They like their narratives, okay? They need their casus belli. They need their pretexts. They need their justifications. The big red machine has to feed fodder to the public. They have to whip it up. And they need us to provide that fodder. And they'll go on, and I know what you're saying, because they can just say whatever they want. You're very right. It's not that you're wrong. It's that for any of us who want to do anything different, who want to do good things, if we want to separate from this country, if we want to make a new Western Canada, anything that we want to do, any result, any plan that we're trying to achieve, we got to be strategic about it. What's the saying from the Bible? Sly as snakes and shrewd as doves. I don't know, I'm massacring it right now. But you have to be strategic. Other people may say those things, and they may rise above the firing line and get their head taken off, but you bide your time. You use your free speech with some self-control so that you can be there fighting for what you believe in. Because if you're not there, and you squander it by calling for a civil war that's never going to happen and making yourself a target and potentially falling afoul of the laws that these individuals are going to shove down our throat when it comes to censorship, I mean, there's an aspect of figuring out how to survive here. More immigrants flooding us. Yes. Canadians are compliant. Yes. He spent too much time in Florida basking in the sun. Yes, he spent too much time on American podcasts. I mean, look at what the Red Machine did, identifying Poilievre with Trump. Look at what they did. How the hell was going on American podcasts going to help Poilievre deal with that overwhelming propaganda campaign against himself? Bernier went down there. Look what it did for him. I really wish we had the national numbers. Does anybody else have a site that tracks all the parties aside from Elections Canada? I don't want to. I'm busy talking to you guys, so I don't want to go looking for it right now. But if anybody does, I'd be happy to see it. Gulch. Every STEM construction worker should leave Canada now. Ponyboy Curtis. Where is Atlantis? And who is John Galt? Was it John Galt? Am I getting that wrong? Was it John Galt? Brilliant book. I listened to it while I was renovating my children's, my firstborn's room, getting ready for him to come into the world. And then I ended up reading it again because it's such a beautiful book. It's so good. Ayn Rand, by the way, Atlas Shrugged, for anybody who's has no idea what I'm talking about. Carney went on CNN American News, like tonight. He went on CNN tonight. Is that what you're saying? Low-income housing list just jumped from 10 years waiting list to 20 years waiting list. Yep. It's only going to get worse. Go to 338 Canada. Okay, we will do that. What am I looking for here? Electoral districts, federal parties, PPC. So 1.2 to 1.3%. I overestimated them by 25%. I gave them 1.7. But I also grossly underestimated the amount of seats that the NDP were going to get. I really thought 3 to 5, and look at them sitting there at 8. Let's check back in with Carlton. Lead keeps shrinking. 5 more polls come in, and it's down 130. Yeah, Pierre could hang. The way that that's going, I think he hangs on. It ain't going to be a landslide, though. It's worth keeping an eye on. Man, I can't even believe it's close. But then again, the shenanigans, like we've been talking about all night, there's so much shenanigans. Remember, Frank, there's nothing new under the sun. Ecclesiastes. Oh. Mary Hairy Legs. Shar, what are you up to, man? I don't even know what's going on. Mary Hairy Legs. Pure choke down the stretch. No, I don't think he did. I honestly don't think he did. I think like you can't get a more stacked deck against you. I think he made a bunch of decisions where every single decision would have been a bad one for his electoral prospects. You're fighting against all of Canada here, collectively. What was he supposed to do? The only thing that I see people advocating for is that he should have campaigned more to the right. And you know what happens if he campaigns more to the right? He loses even bigger. I don't have to like it. He's in politics. He's playing the game. He's playing for keeps. He's trying to win. I think he did about the best job anybody could have done in this game, in politics, here in Canada. I can pick it apart all day. I think there's certain things he could have done differently, but I don't know if doing those things differently amount to better electoral outcomes. This country is euchred politically for Conservatives. We're like, and I don't know what's going to change that. Like the farce that we just went through with Carney, with the whole thing, with Trudeau, with 10 years of this government, corruption, deficit, all of it. And it wasn't enough. What you want Poilievre to campaign more like the PPC? You want him to sound more like Maxime Bernier? Look at where Bernier is. Now the PPC will say that's because people lack courage. If they voted their values, we would win in a landslide. You're just delusional. That's not the case at all. Like, this is Canada. He's stuck working with the pieces that make up this nation. I don't know how. I guess you can call that choking, but I don't know. I don't think it's choking to me. Brantford Boomer lives in a blue riding. There's a little bit of poetic justice. There's still millions of votes to be counted, apparently. Well, where are we at? 10 million, 12, 13 million, somewhere in that neighborhood with 28 million registered voters. So, yeah, there's still millions out there because even in a low turnout, it should be roughly half of that, like 14 million. I think you're going to find turnout was higher in this one. I hope these numbers hold because, you know, a good hung parliament might be a good thing for a while. It might be good for all of us who want to keep our free speech. Like some of the biggest draconian stuff, if they can't govern with the New Democrats, it limits their options. It really limits their options. And so things won't go as fast. How can Carney be our PM? Went to Epstein Island. Bankster. Has 3 passports. And a wife. With guns and an apple. There's so much to that man that I don't understand how the left could even consider unifying him. It's baffles the mind. Conservatives like Trump. Pierre Poilievre should have never said anything about him at all. He played into the Liberals' hands. I wish, as I said earlier, that Poilievre had taken a different track with his messaging. Blame the Liberals for ruining the relationship with the United States, pin it on them, talk about that they're the most reliable geopolitical partner anybody's ever had in the history of the world, and we have to fix our relationship and leave it at that. Now, for whatever reason, and I mean, the reason is obvious. It's not a whatever reason situation. This country has a stupid level of hatred for Donald Trump that's beyond any semblance of reason. That's why we're in this situation. It's all Donald Trump. This election was about Donald Trump more than any of these men. And the people, whether they're right or not, voted for Mark Carney because they think he is the better foil to Donald Trump. So maybe I would have picked a different strategy than Pierre when it came to how I publicly spoke about Trump, but I feel that he felt he didn't have a choice. He had to come out swinging because they've been labeling him Trump North the entire time and being very effective at it. Because we think the way that we think doesn't mean the rest of the country thinks that way. These guys are trying to win elections. And to win elections, you have to figure out how to thread the needle through the collective mind of the public, which is rotten. And it was basket casey before COVID came along, and it's even worse ever since. So, I don't know, man. I don't know what else. I wish he had gone a little bit different, but he certainly couldn't have cozied up to Trump. He does that, he's another 5 points off of where he is right now. It's not an option here, whether we like it or not. Maybe it's an option in Western Canada. My goodness, I see enough Trump flags waving off the back of people's pickup trucks. People are pretty open here about it, but that ain't Canada. That's the West. Things are different here. Look at the map. Look at the map. We are not the same as this. Look how confused this. It actually looks kind of mental, doesn't it? Like, you want to talk about how scatterbrained the Canadian public is. Just look at that electorally. That just looks like a scatterbrain. This looks a little bit more cohesive. Like, everybody here sort of thinks the same way, like we do. We are not the country. It's one of the reasons there's a case for making a new country. 70% or more turnout, so 70% of 28 million. Got to do some quick maths here. I said that with an F, quick maths. 28 million. 0.7. If it's 70%, 19.6 million votes would be total. And so 13 million. So yeah, there's still a third of the votes to come in if that number's correct. Let's check back with Carlton. And let's see if we can find some other close ridings. The lead's back up to 1,800. Good God, that's a nightmare. If Pierre loses his seat, that is a nightmare. It's like a different type of checkmate. And you got to think, it's these cities. These are the centers of the Trump derangement. And there's no more powerful center than Ottawa, because the whole thing that Trump is doing with 51st State threatens everything that Ottawa is, right? So it's pretty easy to understand, with all the coordination, why Carlton might actually flip in this election. There's a world or an understanding where there was literally nothing the Conservative Party could do as long as Trump was flapping his gums in the United States. Wouldn't matter. Trump endorsed Carney. Didn't matter. Canada doesn't care. All they care about is he's talking about 51st State. Doesn't matter what the mechanics of that look like. It's kind of easy to see how maybe there was absolutely nothing the Conservative Party could have done to counter that successfully. And if they had have embraced the image, it would be a super liberal majority right now. Sometimes there's battles you can't win, right? That's the point. There may have been nothing that they could do, and I think maybe that's something the right needs to admit in this country, is that there literally was nothing the CPC could have done to prevent this. Because, if the record of the Liberals doesn't matter, if Carney being parachuted in doesn't matter and doesn't amount to anything, what else is there? The political situation in Canada might be unsalvageable, which is why we have to look to other options. I'm just going to look around here and see if there's... things are starting to settle in pretty good. Brampton Center's close. That green riding, Kitchener Center, has been pulled away by the Conservatives, so they might pick that one up. The Bay of Quinte went. I used to live there. I watched Belleville turn into a hellhole with my own eyes. It's one of the reasons I left. You know, when we were preparing to move west, one day we loaded everybody up in the car and we drove to Belleville to the Pizza Hut there, because I got a thing for Pizza Hut. It doesn't have a thing for me. When I eat Pizza Hut, I get heartburn, and so I don't do it again for another year. And then, you know, memory fades, and I go and I try again, and I'm just like, why do I eat this crap? But anyway, we were moving, and we just went for a drive. We knew we weren't going to be around for much longer, and I park. We get our pizza, and we stay in the car because it's just easier with the kids, and we have this little picnic. And as we're sitting there, this drugged-out homeless man walks right in front of my van, down the grassy knoll, and squats, takes a shit right there in front of my van while I'm eating with my family. And I'll admit that violence crossed my mind. But when you have kids, things change a little bit. You don't want to be one of those people in a video with your kids screaming in the background because daddy went offside. So I started my van and I pulled away. And as I was driving out of town, I noticed it was everywhere. And I watched that happen. Belleville didn't used to be that way. Well, there they are, rewarding the Liberals with another government. It's like the reality of their face doesn't matter. They go through the same thing in the United States, where you see all of these hellhole cities that just vote Democrat all the time. They do the same thing constantly and expect a different outcome. Like, this is Canada, folks, and this is what I'm saying about Poilievre. This is the Canada he's trying to work with to win an election. You know, I'm not making an excuse for it, but it's like sometimes we just got to collectively recognize how things are. Like, if you can't tell the truth about how things are, you can't move forward for the future. And I'm telling you, I think there's a future for Western Canada. If we have a hung parliament, that future might still be slow rolled a little bit. I don't know. I want this to be hung, but Poilievre losing his seat, man, it's bad. If he loses his seat, it's bad. Anyway, back to chat. What do we got going on in the chat? Ignore the bot. Well, I guess we'll just... Can I do something about this? What can I do about this? Put user in timeout. There you go. You're timed out. You see how inexperienced I am with this stuff? Rather than ban you, I just gave you a 24-hour. You'll be able to come back and troll me some more later. Western Canada is not Eastern Canada. No, I mean, again, just look at this map. This is chaos. This is just chaos. This is nice and orderly. Looks kind of beautiful to me. And I think it would be beautiful in Canada or out of Canada. And I think we should be the ones that decide how that goes. I believe Bloc and Ferrari lost as well. Not good. I know, man. This is... Could a popular senator not step in as PC leader if Poilievre loses? Who? Can you name one? Can you name? And I'm not trying to be a jerk, but can you name one that Canada knows, that the public knows who they are? Does Canada, even this Canada that we're looking at here, does it even care about who the senators are? How many senators are there? 5? I think conservative politics in Canada as a whole is pretty damn broken. I'm not sure there's a white steed with a valiant knight atop it that's going to ride in and save the day. I think Pierre was it. Like, Pierre was it. That was the pinnacle, cream of the crop. It took them 20 years to get around to him. It would, I'm not that invested in the Conservative Party. I'm not a member of the Conservative Party. Yeah, I wanted them to win. I voted for them and everything else. But, like, I think it would be a tragedy for them to lose his seat and lose him as leader. I think that's got to be the worst. This parliament holds up, man. That is some hung parliament. Like, I wonder if the CPC would be smarter. Like, how could they hold on to him? How could they justify keeping him when he lost his own seat? They got to go find a seat for him somewhere. He can't even stand in the House anymore. Like, maybe it was a mistake losing the glasses. Maybe he should have stuck to the whole Poindexter thing. Like, see, I don't have a problem with it personally because I think people can improve. You know, they can lose weight, they can get buffed up, they can grow their hair long, they can cut it off, they can present better. I don't have a problem with makeovers, man. And, like, he got jacked. And, I mean, that takes work. I don't think people saying he's wearing a bodysuit. I think he got jacked. He got the contacts. He cut the hair. He looks good. But completely different Pierre Poilievre from the one that everybody was used to for the last 20 years. He was the smart guy who knew everything and could debate. You know, he was unassuming. He had character. He changed that. Maybe that hurt him. They told us they're implementing Agenda 2030. Do you really think they'll allow peasants to derail it? I love these idiots. Vote harder, LMAO. Like, what are you proving? Like, what is it you're trying to do? You pay taxes, right? So you're more of a hypocrite than anybody else. Stop paying taxes. Revoke your driver's license. Revoke your citizenship. Like, just because people vote doesn't make them less than you. Like, how do people get this idea that they're morally superior because they don't participate in the electoral system? I get it. I understand non-participation. I did it in the last election. But you're not better. You're nothing. You're not doing anything. And more than that, you're still a subject to the state. You're still subject to arrest. You're still subject to jail. You're still subject to taxation. So don't judge people who vote. Like, I mean, at least they get out there and do something. What are you doing? Trolling my comments? Vote harder. It's so stupid. It's a dumb argument. Vote or don't vote, and you can espouse those positions, but don't feel like you get no... Voting doesn't make you better any more than not voting makes you better. Like, there's people who say that if you don't vote, you got no right to complain. That's a terrible argument. Because as long as you're paying taxes and you're subject and a thrall of the state, you have all the right to complain in the world as long as you're allowed to complain. Not voting doesn't make you lesser. Voting doesn't make you lesser. Not voting doesn't make you greater. Voting doesn't make you greater. You either exercise your franchise or you don't. It's just so immature. John Doe. It's a pretty representative name. $7 million votes. Is that what's left to count, Robin? Good to see you, man. I know you've been around for a long time. Early voting is just being counted. That's an interesting one because, like, early voting, I mean, it could skew differently than day of voting, but I think day of voting tends to lean conservative. But actually, I don't know. I don't know that for sure. I can't say these results are surprising. No, not really. Not really. I mean, this is Canada. This is Canada. Jagmeet down by 5,000. Yeah, he's wrecked. He's gone. If Carney wins, that means Canada is dumb enough to elect an Epstein client. For sure. For sure. It's baffling. It's bewildering. It's all the words we talked about already. I loved my country, not now. It's gone. Well, Alberta, Betsy's van life. I've watched a couple of your videos, Alberta. I usually, I try to check out, I can't say I do it every day, but I just pick people randomly and go to their channel to see what they've got. I've seen what you're doing. God bless you. Maybe we can create something new. Bernier toured around doing stream appearances, then had no candidates running anywhere. He couldn't even file the paperwork because it's not a serious effort. Advanced voting leans for change. Liberals won't form a government because they can't. They can. They can reach across to the Bloc, and they've got their government if they can do it. If these numbers hold, the New Democrats aren't enough, and the Greens aren't enough. But it's one seat. If they pick up one seat somewhere, or the NDP pick up one seat somewhere, then they can cobble together a coalition that excludes the Bloc and the Conservatives. As it sits right now, again, the Conservatives and the Bloc could govern. But in this convoluted, weird, bizarre election that we're witnessing, the leader of the opposition party with 160 seats is losing his own damn riding. It's just... You couldn't write better political fiction. It's just such a Gordian knot. And for those of you who don't know, because I make reference to that a lot, there was a knot that was so complex that it was said that nobody could untie it. And it was in Egypt, and it was watched over by oracles. So Alexander the Great was doing his conquest, and he came into Egypt. And he was presented with the dilemma of the Gordian knot. The oracles were very clear that he who could untie the Gordian knot, who could lose the Gordian knot, would possess the world. So he walked up to it, and he looked at it, and he took out his sword, and he cut it in half in one swoop. And that was how he undid the Gordian knot. But it's safe to say that that was probably not the intention of the oracles who put it there in the first place. But this is just... I don't even know what the Conservative Party does. So I mean they're wow. Back to the chat. As a boomer for Pierre, I don't even recognize this country anymore, unfortunately. That's Canadian Patriot. Yeah, I'm with you. Did Carney win his seat? Yeah, I'm pretty sure Carney, like, we're talking North Korean numbers. By 20,000 votes. 63.7%. I would be interested to hear what young Wyatt has to say about all this, because he had some insight in the leading up to the election, so I'm wondering what his take is on all this. I think it's pretty explicable, though. This is all Orange Man bad stuff, especially around Ottawa. Like, Ottawa's the country. Ottawa's the center of Canada. When you threaten to take Canada away, you directly threaten Ottawa. Kind of makes sense. I am tired, but too sad to go to bed. Do y'all get the day off from work to vote? I think accommodation has to be made for you to go vote, but I'm not, now that they've got advanced voting and all this other stuff, maybe it's not so formal anymore. I don't know. I think they're supposed to make allowances for you to get to the polling station if it's at all possible. Juno News keeps getting DDoS attacked. Yeah, I'm sure they do. What's the date that Carney will disclose his financials? Not soon enough to be effective. It doesn't even matter now. People are going to learn. They're not even going to care. No one's going to care. Orange Man bad. This proves that Orange Man bad is the ultimate argument. Oh, Christ. I just saw the Liberals count went up to 163, but it's at the expense of the New Democrats. If anything, I just don't want to deal with another 4 years of the NDP and the Liberals propping each other up. Like, it's just something else. Make the Bloc do it. I keep saying over and over again, this election disaster is Trump's fault, and no one is saying anything about it. He should have waited to talk about tariffs after our election. This was not fair to us. Christos Ringas. I think this is exactly what Trump wants. So from his perspective, he's been very successful. This is the outcome he desired. And his perspective is the only perspective that matters when you're dealing with assessments of Donald Trump. He does not care about what we wanted up here. President Trump has nothing to do with our election. He has everything to do with our election, Luke. Everything. Maybe not to you, maybe not to me, but to millions and millions and millions of Canadians, he is the boogeyman du jour. He's the great evil. Whether you like it or I like it or not, that's the way it is. And the big red machine capitalized on that tonight, and that is why they're clinging to power. Admittedly, it's a different type of power so far, depending on how this all settles. Clinging to it nonetheless. There is a 3-hour allowance for voting to miss work. Frank, maybe you need to make more anti-Trump derangement syndromes videos for Canadians. I don't know if it would help. I don't know if that would help. Trump makes it hard to educate Canadians about himself just by being who he is. That's a tough one. I don't know if Canadians are reachable when it comes to Trump. Like most of these people that are doing this to this election result, they're not rational about Trump. They're emotional. You can't reason with emotion. And there's a lot of Canadians that are given over to emoting. Yeah, it is nice to be chilling with you. It's nice to be chilling with all of you. I'll be honest, though. I think I'm going to sign off because I don't think there's much left to do. We're going to wait, and we're going to see how these numbers settle, and that's really all we can do. I'm getting pretty beat. And tomorrow's a new day. We work again. And it was good to be here. Like it's so good to just hang out with the chat and respond to you guys. Like I know I go off, but you are the ones that make it happen. You make it what it's all about. You give it value because you spend your time with it. And I'm always surprised and I'm always humbled, and I'm not kidding. Every single time I look at the metrics and I see how much time you guys spend watching my stuff, I'm always thinking to myself, how do I make sure I am not wasting their life? Because they're giving me their life. So I better be trying to do a better job with the time you give me. And so these are... I'm just reading I'm reading everything. Love you, Frank. Great to be with you. Thanks. Thank you so much, Frank. Cool, Frank. Thanks for the show. Cathartic, actually. Thank you, sir. Hung with you till the end. Cheers. You guys rock. And I'm not going anywhere. I know I've been back and forth over the years, but you're stuck with me this time. At least until Mark Carney decides I'm not allowed to speak anymore. I'm Frank Vaughn. I'll